Okay, if everybody's ready, we will call the open session to order. And at this time, I would ask Phil to read land acknowledgement, please.
Sure. The Fundy Regional Service Commission would like to acknowledge and honor and pay respect to the land on which it gathers and operates. The FRSC operates on the traditional unceded territory of the Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy. This territory is covered by the trees of peace and friendship, which the Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy people first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but recognized Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqey title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. The FRSC is committed to creating a new standard by developing meaningful nation-to-nation partnership that strengthen and honor all its relations.
Thank you for that, Phil. I would ask for record of attendance.
I've got it recorded.
Thank you.
And the letter to Mayor Kennedy proposed to the agenda.
Oh yeah, that's on the agenda. All right, so we're going to do that.
You just approve the agenda with the addition.
Yep. So right now, we'll go to approve the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda with the letter to Minister Kennedy. Include it. Moved by John. I'm going to call you John 1. Second by Carrie. Carrie 1.
Carrie 1. Okay, gotcha.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Yeah, we gotta have each other. Entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda, the minutes, please. Moved by John 1. Second by approval of the
Perfect, thank you.
Carrie 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Carried. If anybody at any time through this meeting has a conflict of interest arise, or if you know, you please bring it up at that time when the subject comes up, and remove yourself from the room, and we'll bring you back in maybe. All right, we're going to go CEO verbal update. Phil, please.
Great. First, congratulations to all of you for getting elected, finding yourself to this board today. For us, this board means a lot to the commission. It is the vision of the organization. It's a decision-making authority. You have staff here today you'll get to meet and interact with, and really happy to have you as part of this team in this journey we're all taking. Today's a special day as well because it's Rob's last official day as chair. Or technically it will with the election.
Yeah.
And I wanted to thank Rob. Rob took a load of work that I don't know if you all understand what it was, because he was also the chair of the regional facilities at a time that we're pursuing a major project. So outside of me calling him 3, 4, 5 times a week, attending these meetings, preparing for these meetings, attending executive meetings, he's also doing monthly meetings with the regional facilities while opening up a new summit center and managing his affairs in Hampton as mayor. So I can only imagine the level of commitment and passion for a region to be able to do that. We really appreciate the commitment you've given to this region, to this board, and we have a small gift for you.
What?
And
gifts.
and
It's a fireball. Thank you, Phil. You guys didn't. Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys didn't do that.
Yeah.
I'll look at it later.
So thank you, Rob.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been interesting. It's a lot on the go.
He actually doesn't get to leave the executive because we hold him there hostage for another year as past chair, so he's not totally out of the woods yet. The next thing, just a couple quick updates. It is my vision as part of this ongoing orientation to host our next meeting in July at the landfill. I'd like to organize a tour of the landfill for all of you. I think it's absolutely something that you should be in tune with, you should understand. It's the biggest and most mature part of our operations, and we're very proud of it and for its accomplishments and for what it does for our region. And it's really the foundation of where this started. So we think it's really important that you have that. For those of you who have had meetings with me, with your councils, I'm also inviting your councils at a separate time. We don't want to have all councils at once for this time. We'll just do it for the board in July. But if you do want to do this with your own councils, I think it's a great opportunity, a little opportunity to bring your team together. And if Mark agrees with me, it's probably better to do it in the summer months than the winter months. Landfill is a little bit more interactive in the summer months than it is in the winter months because it's cold and you won't want to be outside for too long. So the touch and feel of it is a little different. Couple other updates. We've received commitment from the provincial government. We have a regional strategy which was developed in 2023 until 2028, and the FRSC CEOs have reached out to the Department of Environment and Local Government saying we're going to have to renew these strategies. That's going to happen in 2027 in order for them to be ready for 2028. And they have agreed that they will give each RSC $25,000 to help support that. So that's new funds that weren't planned that will earmark for next year once they are received. So that's good news for us to pay down some of the cost of developing a new strategy. The last thing I wanted to discuss was just on nominations for the commission. I want to make sure I sent a note around, and it is one of my faults that I do send very long emails, so apologies. My staff will know this way more than you. They get more of it. But the Coles notes of nominations are this. There are 5 standing committees of the FRSC. It is the board's vision that each chair of each one of those 5 committees are somebody from the board. To sit on that. If there's not enough interest from the board, that's okay, but that is the original vision. Okay, so we would take kind of precedent on that. But then there are up to 1 or 2 positions, most of the committees, for additional elected officials. And it is the vision of the board and of the FRSC that we would invite your councillors, your advisory committee members, as part of that network. So I sent out a note to explain each one of the committees, and I think where we're tripping up a little bit, or I'm getting a lot of questions, is, well, how do I nominate? What's the process? And the FRC does not define that process for you. So we don't say you have to go through your nominations, or you have to, it's the decision of the mayor. We'll basically say it's up to you to decide. So if you want to, as the primary delegate to the FRSC, tap on somebody's shoulder and say, I understand you're really interested in transportation and you've had some background. You would be great for this. Would you like me to nominate you? You can do it that way, if that's what you prefer. You can also go through your own nominating process that you have within your local government or rural district advisory committee, which send it to nominations, have a call for proposals. You could do that if you want. But I don't want to dictate that for you. I'm not going to go to your counselors and solicit all that, because if you want to do the individual tap on somebody's shoulder, you should be able to do it. So the deadline to submit is July 3rd, so I'll do a reminder of this soon. We've gotten some feedback, and absolutely, if you're existingly in a committee, you can just say, I'd like to continue. That's easy. If you'd like to switch committees and you're in an existing committee, that's fine. And then just to make sure you understand what happens, I'll collect all that. I'll collect all the nominations. It's my responsibility to then share all those nominations with the nominating committee, which is the executive committee of the FRSC. We have a meeting. We say, here are the skills matrix for all the committees. Here are the nominations. A recommendation will come out of that. It will come back to this body in closed session, and then a decision will be made in closed, and it will go into open for ratification. So all the names of all the nominees won't go into open. They'll stay into closed. It will just be the nominees that are successful that will go into open session. But you'll all see the names for the enclosed. So we hope that people participate. You know, that's ultimately what we want. We think it's really important. One of the things that the last board observed is that connection of the elected office with the work happening in the committee really matters once it goes up to a decision. So we saw that in the past where people were upset about regional facilities, and then Rob would say, well, this is how we made this recommendation. This is why we came up with it. And he was there because he was part of the Regional Facilities Committee. And that tends to give a little bit more tangibility and comfort at the board level to say, well, good, there's an elected office and a board member that's reviewed this for us, in addition to all the CAOs and the CEO of the FRSC.
So just for clarity, right, each council can nominate a representative to sit on each of the committees that the FRSC has.
You can submit as much as you want. We won't do that. We won't, because there's only 10 positions in total, right? There's the chair and the added. We could add additional if there was a high need. So I think the easiest way is pick and choose who you think would be really appropriate for each committee. I'll maybe pick on Quispam-CIS a little bit on how they did it last time around. They had Mike Bigger, who was overseeing their transportation committee, has always been a real strong advocate for transportation, and he'd raised his hand to sit on the transportation committee, and the nominating committee said, well, that's a good fit. Mm-hmm. And then we had Mary Schreier, who was the former Minister of Social Development, saying, I'd like to participate in that community development committee. And the nominating committee was like, well, that's a good fit, we'll do that. So I think that's a good example. It's like you don't have to do anything, but when you say, oh, wow, I have this one council colleague that has a real interest in this topic, they would be great in this. And it gives them an opportunity to participate in a regional conversation and participate with other expertise. They're not the only representatives in those committees, right? Each committee has a different composition as well.
John?
One question. One important thing is what time do these committees meet?
Yep. I think the breakdown, there's an attachment that was sent in that long email, and it gives you a little bit more detail. Most of the meetings are in the daytime, and all of them do accommodate virtually. I can go through it very quickly, but
So
yeah.
daytime.
It's primarily daytime. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It can change. It can change just like this body. It can change depending on the needs of those.
Because that would knock out all mine.
Yeah. Like public safety, for example, John, it's all the police chiefs and fire chiefs. So they have no interest in meeting in the evening or the weekend. So they're like, let's meet early in the morning. The CAOs are the regional facilities. That's the primary composition. They want to meet during the workday. And then public, the theme for transportation is the lunch hours. And then for solid waste, they haven't started meeting yet, so that hasn't been defined. So that could be one that they meet.
So it's not compulsory, you have to have something. Okay.
It's not. It would be decided on what works for the committee.
So
Yep.
can I just ask a question, just to confirm that the ideal though is to have people that sit around this table be the chair or the vice chair of those committees? That would be the recommended.
It's the best because then the decision comes back and you have a spokesperson who's embedded in the decision or the recommendation. That was it, but if we don't have enough interest, that means there'd be 5 of you that are chairs of committees, right? So it's a heavy lift, so I have to acknowledge that if we just don't have the capacity at the board level, well, we'll find others within.
As you'll find, it's busy as it is, so the commitment is a commitment for sure. But it's nice to be involved in it that way, right, John? You chair that, you get involved, you bring that information back to council. Right. It's all good that way, but it is a commitment for sure. We put ours out, our clerk did last council meeting to councillors and said, is there any interest of all these committees that you'd be interested in? Send it to our clerk and we'll send it to Phil, the name, and away we go. So, yeah. You good, Phil?
That's good.
Thank you very much for that. Any more comments or questions to Phil on his update? If not, we'll go on to consent items there. We can do these all in one, like 4.1 to 4.7, unless basically there's interest in doing them separately. Really, unless there's something that needs to be brought up in each one of them or discussed. you can just put them all through at once.
Yeah, I would move 4.1 through to 4.7.
Okay. Moved by John, 1. Second, I need a seconder. Seconder is Matt. Matt, 1. All in favor? Contrary minded? Carried, thank you. That's usually the simplest way to do it. Reports and presentations, financial update. Phil, please.
Yeah, I'll invite Laura up. She's our Senior Director of Finance, and she'll give you a little update on what the books look like after first quarter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For those I haven't had a chance to introduce myself to, I'm Laura Burnett. I'm the CPA and Director of Finance for the FRSC. Started here back in January. Happy to see everyone here this morning.
Yeah.
I'll be pretty brief with the Q1 update. We had our auditors here at the last meeting and reviewed the 2025 audited financial statements. So if anyone new to the board has any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. Fill you in on any past going-ons. This year so far, things are looking great. We are on plan. We're showing a surplus right now, but that is mainly because of the timing of the year. So Q1 going to the end of March. We haven't had any capital purchases yet, and there are some other projects that we're expecting to have higher expenditures later in the year. So while when you look at the financials, there is a surplus there, we're on par with where we expect to be at this time of year. So not too much
Yeah.
of note so far with 3 months to go. At the next quarterly update, there will be a little more that's happened, but so far, status quo.
That's probably lots for today.
Yeah.
Seems we got so much on the go. Any questions to Laura on anything? Very good. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Motion to receive and file, please. John, 1, second by Carrie. 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Carrie. Just so you know back there, we have 2 Carries, 2 Johns here today. That's how we're getting through it. Yep. Yes, it is. Okay. Performance dashboard. Graham? Okay. So we're going to the Funding Region Service Commission Performance Dashboard. Graham, please. Good to see
Morning,
you, sir.
everyone. Yeah. This morning we're presenting an exciting milestone for the Funding Regional Service Commission that involves a bit of interaction that hopefully Cassie will facilitate. Well, when you go to our website now and you go to reports and financials, you'll notice something new highlighted in green, the performance dashboard. And you can also access this through fundingregion.ca/dashboard. And if you want to click through here, this is a visual representation of something that's been a fairly long time coming as we try to continue our steady march towards improved transparency and openness and sharing our data about the progress on our work plan and creating a clearer line of sight between the board, the public, what we do, and what our services and outcomes are. We developed this new database and the dashboard that showcases it to the public as a way to improve our measures internally, but also externally as well. So what we've done is work through our senior leadership team. This was done, the development with a contract position that we have this year, Kelly Baker, who's a fantastic staff member who helped bring this data together, a real whiz, as it were, that helped us internalize this expertise rather than going to a consultant necessarily to do this. And this allows us to grow, to measure. You'll see a selection of things, and we'll go through this, some of the highlights here in a moment, in different service areas. But this is also devised in a way that we can grow this year over year. We can tie this in with our growth in GIS as well, to potentially put some mapping in with these numbers to visualize things spatially as well. And to update a number of these quarterly as well, so that we'll be able to see regular updates. So what you'll see in some of these looks a little sparse because this is intentioned to start showing year over year, but where we started measuring many of these KPIs either late 2025 or into 2026. Year over years don't look like much when you only have 1 year. So we're expecting this to grow and start to look and tell more of a story as we move forward. Community development's a great example. You see a single bar there that shows 4 quarters, but only of a single year in 2025 for community engagement hours. Well, that'll look a lot better as we start to have multiple years of measurement. Same goes for urban-rural rides. But there's some really great stories already to tell here. If you want to move to regional facilities, Cassie, planning and building inspection is a great example of something that was reported to the board already in our packages. Well, now we can show those building permit values year over year in a public dashboard that's a little easier for everyone to see. Regional facilities is a great example too of working with our facilities to get this data. I understand this is small, so I encourage you all to look at it in your own time off the screen of the presentation. But we're now able to look at some facility user rates by member community or the percent of revenue beyond the FRSC's annual contribution. So how has their revenue been diversified as well? And right now, this is a single year, but we could also show this year over year. The flexibility is there where we can devise this. You can, if you hover your cursor, Cassie, over, let's say the aquatic center, it will also sort of show you some of those numbers as well. And we'll be able to refine this over time, that if you want to search for, what the percentages are across all the facilities for Grand Bay Westfield, it will show it that way. So it's really set up in a way that designed for growth. You can also then maybe show some of the solid waste numbers, because this is something that's been well tracked over the years as well. And rather than just looking to our annual report, we can put some of these recycling and compost per capita numbers. Right now they're just in a table because it's a little complex in a chart, but we can visualize this differently if we'd like. So really the story here is that we're starting down this road of this is currently available online. We're starting to put that information out publicly, and we've built the back end to facilitate this being sort of step one of hopefully a few to tell our story better, to facilitate transparency, and if you go to the last one as well, allow everyone, yourselves included of course, to keep an eye out. No, the next one.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. There's so many pages of information. Keep an eye on our annual work plan as well. So you'll see here all of our service areas. This lighter green is active. Once they move to completed, that changes to dark green. And every time the senior leadership team goes through our work plan and updates these numbers, we'll be able to just do a quick update to this dashboard. So you'll be able to see, oh, great, the regional facilities are 50% completed in their work plan items, 75 now, so forth. And then at the end of the year, we'll be able to have that nicely represented for how our success looks. So really, something that's a common piece to see these dashboards on other public service organizations or governments, but new for the FRSC and continues our movement towards formalizing and reforming some of our process so that we're helping everybody measure and move forward together.
Very good.
I might just add a couple comments here. Is one, I think this is it's tough. We're a regional service commission. We've been tasked to say, help me tell the story of what you're doing. And that we've heard that from all members here at the council level. And this is not the full story, but certainly helpful to start doing this and publicizing it. And once we have the frequency, as Graham mentioned, I think it will even get better. I do want to maybe point to one really tangible thing. If you go to slide 7, Cassie, this is something that if we update, and when we update it quarterly, it'd be something that you can take a look at. For those of you with less exposure to this, it is cheaper for you to recycle and compost than it is to submit waste. So you want to see your numbers increase, therefore you're likely paying less on tipping fees that are the highest, right? Because we have a differential tipping fee depending on what you do. So this can be used to track your own progress as a municipality and say, how are we doing? Oh, look, people are are doing less composting and less recycling year over year, or month over month, or quarter over quarter, and you can then make a decision. You can say, hey, I'm concerned about this, and then you can then go to your staff and say, how do we promote this? This is costing us more money, right?
Yeah.
And then they might say, how can we work with the FRSC and the Green Mountain team to do that? And they might, when we've been working on different projects here and there on that. So this is a real tangible one that real-time data will be useful in terms of adapting.
That's good. That's good. And you have the opportunity to put it out there to the public, of course, but you and your councils just review this at any time. It's a great site for sure, and a lot of information. Any more comments or questions to Graham on what he's?
I just have a question. Thank you. That was really helpful. And actually, the comment around the recycling and compost is less expensive than waste. That's something that again, we can definitely push in our communities. What is your role?
I'm the Director of Policy and Research for
Thank
the
you.
FRSC. Great question. Introduced by bio a little better.
Yeah, that's my bad. I probably should have said more. Sorry about that, Graham. All right, if there's no more questions to Graham,
Receive and file.
received and filed, please. Motion to receive and file his report from Matt. And
Sarah.
I saw Sarah.
Sarah, yeah, you did? Okay. All in favor? Contrary minded? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Graham. All right. Amendment to the procedural bylaw.
Yeah. This is a proposal to change one of the sections of the procedural bylaw under the Code of Conduct. So in November of 2025, the board had sought to add additional sanction to the Code of Conduct relating to financial penalty for as a potential sanction. And the way it read when it was adopted included kind of two streams. One was that the sanction could be applied to the affected member or the related entity. So we received legal advice for this. And the context of this is that the FRC was incurring a lot of legal costs at the time, and the board was saying, well, how is this fair that we're all paying for these legal costs when they are related to one member within the organization. So that's the context of where this came from. We got legal advice, and then it was adopted. So since that time, we've received feedback, and things can change. We get new information, and one of the unintended consequences of this that I think is a good thing for the board to consider is that it had an unintended consequence of not just deterring the type of behavior that we don't want to see, which is violations of the Code of Conduct, and that's why you have sanctions, is that you make sure that members don't violate the Code of Conduct. But it deters participation into the board or committees, and that's not the intended consequence. You don't want to have sanctions that scare everybody away and says, well, they're just so harsh, if something like that happened. And that the sanctions, the feedback that we received that were the strongest was that the personal liability that would place on the individual would be so high that that's why they're scared to participate, and it shouldn't happen. So I think that's a fair argument, a well formulated argument. I sought legal input on this, and I suggested the easiest thing to do is to remove the individual liability component to it. So you could still maintain the spirit of what the board was looking for at the time when they adopted this sanction, which is that there should be a financial penalty, but make it only to the entity, not the individual. So that's what the recommendation proposes. We're certainly open for discussion on this, and the recommendation is there in the resolution.
Any comments or questions on that?
When you're talking about the entity, you're talking about, like, for example, Fundy St. Martin's. Well, I can be very honest with you. I've read your bylaw numerous times, and I absolutely disagree with it. I don't think that I would want to be sitting here saying the wrong thing, and I would be careful of what I would say for fear of that, because I believe that anything, and mostly procedural bylaws, I think are supposed to be done publicly. So I am totally against saying something might be said to, or I might say something wrong to any one of you that would be wrong, and my village would be in charge for, as we know, $75,000 was spent on the legal fee for the last one, and we have probably had to pay for that too. So, no, I think, I like, so you have sanctions, and I know legally you sent us a letter that it's right, but I just don't, I think I would be very hesitant to say my honest opinion on certain things of fear that somebody in here would take it the wrong way, and the next thing I know, I'm in the mess that was in there for the last couple of years. So I absolutely am against fining anyone. I think when it gets to that point, someone in the, I don't know whether I should say this, I know I've been a boss in many, many jobs. I think it would be settled in-house quite quickly if you did it properly. Oh, I didn't say you didn't. I'm just saying that. So, I'll stop talking. I just absolutely would not, and that will question whether I'm even coming back.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Carrie, anything? Carrie too? No?
I guess,
No.
I'm just wondering if there's, I guess there's two issues. One is the change, which I actually agree with. Like, if we're gonna change it, I think it should be the entity and not the individual. But I wonder if we look upriver, if it's a bigger issue in terms of the actual bylaw itself, and is there an opportunity to relook at the actual bylaw to make sure that people aren't feeling like you can't say what is on your mind because you're worried about ramifications, and also to ensure that it's not used as a form of intimidation or silencing people. So I wonder if there's two things, whereas I do think it shouldn't be the individual held accountable because we're here representing our communities, so the community should have a stake in that. But I do think that there might be an opportunity to explore looking at the bylaw and having a discussion on making sure it's very, very clear on what the procedural bylaw looks like so that there isn't any gray zones.
Okay, thank you. Matt, anything?
No, I agree.
Yeah. I think.
I agree with what John
John
or
said.
Ju said.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's in the in-house, because I'm not sure if there's a difference being new here between the procedural bylaw and the code of conduct, so that's a different thing.
The code of conduct is in the procedural bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Because there's like these corrective actions that are here that to me make sense working in various institutions, including municipal government. Reprimands, educating,
Yep.
suspend, I don't understand why
Wise financial.
is there a financial piece to this? Who benefits from that? Because when you think of the bigger picture of building trust, collaboration, which we talked about with the local governments, and how our responsibility is to bring back a sense of confidence in the Fundy Regional Service Center. We want our constituents to be confident in this, and this doesn't create, it's fear. It's very fearful. And I would ask, what is the benefit? What is the benefit of finding someone? Because especially where so my background right now is behavior in the education. And we work with, instead of the old-fashioned discipline, or turning more to restorative circles, mediation. This is where a lot of institutions are moving towards, and that fining people is not,
Right.
I don't think that's really aligned with where, with the Funding Service Commission.
So for clarity, you're saying finding the person or the
Or the
municipality.
entity. I don't think it serves
Yep.
any benefit to
Yep.
anybody to have a financial penalty.
Yep.
I think I think if something happened and there was an injury or something capital or something, that's a whole different thing. But this is your conduct is what you're saying, how you're presenting yourself. There's opportunities for miscommunication, and the only way to rectify that really is to have a conversation. You can't rectify that with money.
Point. Good
Can
points.
I ask a clarifying question
Yeah.
around, I guess I was under the impression that the fine was to cover the cost of legal. Like, it wasn't actually a fine, it was more so that someone has to be responsible for the cost incurred for the investigation
Yeah.
and all that other stuff. So I guess I'm
Yeah.
new and I'm just coming into it, but that was my understanding, so I agree. So I'm kind of taking back a little bit what I said. I agree that we shouldn't be fining people. I guess I was under the impression that we're looking at if you're incurring costs because of something, someone needs to cover those costs, and who's responsible for covering the costs. And I guess if that's the conversation, I am for our municipalities being responsible, not the individual. But I think you bring up a good point, like
Why are we even doing that path?
well, no, and I agree, but I guess at some point there may be a point where you have to go to a legal, so I think you need to have something in there, because, ideally, we wouldn't need to resort to legal, but if we do have to resort to legal, the question is who covers those costs. But I agree, I think there should be lots of other things in a policy or a bylaw that we ideally would never get to that point.
It would be everybody that would cover the cost if needed, right? So that's for that.
That's the stat, if this wasn't in place, the standard would be that everybody pays for it. St. John pays 54% of it, that's their cost to it. I think Quispam says about 15-16%. I think you've got to understand it within the context that it was developed. The board sought this because we received 8 complaints. There was 1 complaint lodged, and then there was a response by 8 retaliatory complaints that happened, and the board was overwhelmed with those complaints. And that costs money, the process, complaints, reviews, and that's a consequence on the organization. And they said, there's nothing that you can do, you have to process them. You can't say, I can't process them, you have to. And and I was reporting that legal costs were increasing. I'm not a lawyer, I can't adjudicate and review all these. So that's the context. In the context of providing a sanction, sanctions should be a deterrent to behavior. So agreed, some could say a penalty is too far, and that's a totally fair argument. So I'm not going to debate that at all. But there's a sanction that removes somebody from the board. It's a penalty to them to be removed from the board. A code of conduct without sanctions, I believe, is a silly thing. You're just saying, I hope you act this way.
Yeah.
There's no consequence to you to act in that particular way. And then if you do, what's the body going to do if you've done that? They'll say, please don't do it. And they'll say that to you in multiple letters over the years. And so that's why they're sanctions. They're a legitimate thing. How far? Great question. Awesome question for this board. And maybe the context of last year is no longer relevant, but to defend how this was developed. And it was not, we sought legal advice on this, so we wanted to find out. But absolutely, your commentary about, is this too far? I think that's something that's open for this.
I think everybody's saying mostly financial. The financial burden on the representative or the municipality is not the way you want it. So far, we've heard that. John, what are your...
Yeah, so I guess from my perspective, I look at it as what Phil just said. I mean, there's no sense in having a bylaw, any bylaw, without some sort of action at the end of it. Somebody's speeding down the street and you say, listen, don't speed up there, it's not nice. But you give them a ticket, maybe they don't speed nice. But I mean, St. John doesn't want to pay 50% of the legal costs because somebody's not abiding by the code of conduct. I've been going to meetings for 20 years, and I'm sure John has too, and I've never run across a situation where I felt that I was going to be in a code of conduct situation. Because I think you can say whatever you want to say in a way that's not, personal. Like, I mean, I'm from St. John, right? I've dealt with people all around this table that said, don't take this personally, but, And so, I mean, I get it. But at the end of the day, and I doubt very much that would ever be used. But you know what? If you don't put something in there, you might as well, like Phil said, just say, gee, would you mind being nicer? Like people aren't coming to meetings because you're not being very respectful. And I think that there has to be a deterrent.
Mm-hmm. John, there was something?
Yeah, I don't disagree that there has to be a deterrent, because, kids in school, I was the principal, you punish kids. But I guess when I read the bylaw too, and I've read it more than once, it's so subjective. And it's subjective to the person who decides what you said to me was wrong. And I really think that we should look at the bylaw also and it's just way too subjective and can be taken out. That's why I always say, pick up the phone and call me. I don't want to write it to you.
Right.
Because you're reading it differently than I'm interpreting it.
Yeah.
And so I really think we have to look at the bylaw, and I do believe, always believe there has to be rules. I mean, you run everything by rules. But I think that's going far. And if it went to that far, then it would have to be very serious. So I don't know of any entity or any of that can afford $75,000, or I can't imagine anybody I would hope it would never go that far again. So I don't know. I just think maybe we have to look at the bylaw. It's too subjective, and look at the penalties. And I do agree with all those penalties that go before that. I mean, that's proper. You apologize. You do this. You do this. But I just
Financial.
think it's.
Financially,
I would question if I was say the wrong thing.
right.
Thank
Point
you.
carry, Andy?
Yeah, I agree. I think that there has to be a deterrent somehow. There's got to be, like John said, if you get a ticket, don't do that again is enough. We need to have something that would sting a little bit. You know, I also agree that review the bylaw.
So it sounds like that the board, maybe we should table this and have you do a little more.
Well, there's kind of two things. What I'm hearing is two things. One is, so there's an existing sanction, and the recommendation now proposes to eliminate a portion of it. What I'm hearing is there's still discussion about whether we need to go this far, but then there's also opposition to the penalty altogether. So I think there's kind of, I would see two options here. One is that absolutely, at least change it the way it is, right? At least remove the private. Like, I don't think anybody opposes that. Nobody said we need to maintain the private liability on that sanction. So I haven't heard that. So that is one option. The other option is to say, so I don't think there's a merit of tabling it. Tabling would make this status quo. So I wouldn't recommend that from what I've heard.
Okay.
And the second would be, well, let's eliminate that sanction altogether, and then look at other sanctions, look at the bylaw in a broader context. So I think that's the two options that I'm hearing. Is one would be adopt the recommendation as is. Let's go take a look at more bylaws. Or I've heard enough. I think the whole section should be, the whole sanction on financial penalty should be removed.
Yeah.
I just have one more comment.
Yeah.
I think that one thing that might stop someone from going and doing what you're doing is, well, not what we're doing, but what we're planning on, is the fact that we know now from the commission that was set up in Fredericton that bylaws should not be done in secret. They should be done in open sessions. They should be done in public sessions. And we know that, certainly we know the last one wasn't. So that would deter me if I knew it was going to go to public session and whatever. So I'd be watching what I was saying, and I could understand that. But I just think we're on a slippery slope that is going to prevent people from wanting to work with us.
Perhaps I'll clarify the comment you made about the last bylaw being developed and closed.
Oh, I don't know about that. I didn't mean to say bylaw. I meant to say how
So all
Not the
bylaws
bylaw.
have to be adopted in open session. None of our bylaws have ever adopted.
I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say, when you're actually, you've placed the person under the code of conduct, the dealing with the code of conduct is to be done in public, I'm sorry. Yeah, and it wasn't.
Yeah, we can
Well,
talk about that as
well, no,
something.
that was decided by the commission that was created in Fredericton. We got the letter
Yeah.
stating.
All decisions of the board on any code of conduct matter have always been done in open session. There are discussions that can happen in closed. We did one today. We had a justification for it. Everything has to be justified in closed. It's debatable on what it is, but you have to claim what it is. A legal opinion is a closed session matter, so if you're getting legal opinion, you go into closed, you're not permitted to put it into open, and we're guided by the legislation. So so if there's an optics of that, we got to improve on that, and please hold us accountable to anything that's enclosed. You saw what was enclosed today, debatable, but we'll continue that. So, but just to clarify, all decisions on anything that has been made by this organization on code of conduct matters had to happen in open session.
Well, if I gave you that impression, I didn't mean to.
No.
I'm talking about the bylaws, not bylaws. When you put it against me, okay? Then when we decide we're going to meet and talk, then that has to be public. Is that not what came down from Fredericton?
It's a good question, and I think we might want to do an offline on it, but ultimately, it depends on what the nature of it is. Let's say somebody complains about something that is unsubstantiated. So I'll just give a crazy example, right? John hit me with his car this morning, you know, and not true, he didn't do it.
Oh my God.
And you're like, it's completely not true. We have a role to protect you in this too, to say Phil's going around saying to everybody that John hit him with his car this morning. You know, like we as a body have to protect you in that situation. So we would claim like, listen, this would damage your reputation if we end up debating this in open session. So we'd say, let's get to the bottom of this and close, and we would justify that. And then at the end of that process, we'd say, okay, Phil, you lied. You know, there's going to be a separate punishment for you, not true. And then it would go into open and say a code of conduct matter was presented, and we believe it's vexatious and frivolous. So there would be examples of that you should be going into close to protect the interests of the organization and the people involved.
So can I ask a question in regards to something that you had mentioned, Phil? So in terms of, you know, reviewing the bylaw, like, I guess my question is if we don't pass this amendment, who ultimately, like, you know, there's potential that we're gonna need legal costs in the future. Who's covering those costs if we don't actually pass this amendment? Because right now, it's written that it would be the individual, and the amendment says that it should be the individual and the municipality or the organization they're associated with.
Great question, and perhaps you're pointing to something that others might feel. This is not an automatic, so this is a sanction that has to be exercised by the board. And I would say this is, as you've heard, like a pretty severe sanction. We've done one code of conduct since I've been here, and it was to remove somebody from the board for 2 consecutive 90-day periods, and that was a pretty severe, you know, repercussion sanction. So this is, I think, even further than that. This would be even further. So the board would have to say, hey, this is so bad that we want to exercise this. So it's not an automatic. So like, again, a code of conduct matter comes in, the board would see it. They'd say, what do we want to do with it? And say, we should investigate. We should get a third party. We'd find a third party. We would do it. And then they'd say, it's unfounded or whatever else. Or it is founded. And they'd say, okay, what sanction would you like? It would be the board's decision, the prerogative at that time to say, what's the cost of it? So it's not an automatic. It would have to be a resolution of the board.
But if we don't have this built into our bylaw, then it's not like we can then look at this and say, you know what, this is a severe whatever, and we want to go back to the municipality and ask for reimbursement of this cost.
So right now, as it is today, we can do that. That is one of the sanctions we can. That's in our bylaw, that we can do it to the individual or the organization. What's being proposed today is to eliminate the personal one, but there's also feedback we're receiving is perhaps the penalty altogether should be removed. And I think that's the decision before the board today. Certainly also heard that there's a need to kind of review the procedural bylaw, which I've taken note of, and perhaps we look at a way of doing that. But I'll deal with that separately than the decision at hand today.
Okay. So we should have a vote on which one the board would like. So option 1 is to.
It would be to remove the affected member. The affected member from the resolution, and then and then the second option would be to remove the sanction altogether.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, I would move to, that was your 2 options, just remove the individual but hold the municipality accountable.
Okay.
So, John, you're moving that?
I
That was the recommendation in the report, correct? As worded?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to double check.
Yeah. So
Great.
we need a second?
I need a seconder.
Moved by John, second by anybody? Okay.
I saw Matt.
Oh, Matt, you did?
Yeah, Matt won, yeah.
Matt won. Sorry, I didn't see that. All in favor? There's 3, 4. Contrary minded? 2. forward it to.
Okay.
And can I make a motion that we, and maybe we don't need a motion, but I'd like to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that I think we all are asking for a review of the procedural bylaw.
procedural bylaw.
Because I think that that ultimately is really where the crux is we need to really look at that.
Can I propose an addition to that? Like, you know, there's 2 members that have indicated that they're concerned with this, and it's not a great feeling when they're, it's not there. And John had mentioned, you don't know if you would be able to stay even with this, and I think that's powerful to say. So one of the things I'd like to research, if the board would allow it, is to look at a cap or a maximum. Which I couldn't tell you what that is, right? Like, what is an appropriate cap to it? So, again, I don't know what an independent investigator costs, but let's say it's like, $10,000 to $20,000. But, I don't think we're saying, I don't know what type of legal costs can be incurred, but perhaps a cap is something that is a little bit more tenable. If we're gonna maintain this, perhaps we come back and say, done some research, best practice, and a cap of $10,000 is appropriate, and the board feels like that's good. I like that works. But I want to make sure you're aware of it. I don't want to bring it back and say, get that the stuff away from me. I don't want any cap. I want it to be open. So I thought I'd just share that as a part of the review of the procedural bylaw, and acknowledging that some members have shared some frustration with this.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because the board doesn't, or if somebody has a complaint, if they've submitted a complaint against the board, they don't have any control. You could say, okay, well, we're going to go and have an investigation. Well, I don't like that investigation. Let's get another one. The cost can keep rolling. They have no choice in what the expenses are incurred. So I think placing a cap on it would be appropriate, just because you can't control where the investigation is going to go and what the ultimate costs are going to be.
So is there a motion on the table to review the bylaw, procedural bylaw with for the research and recommendations?
Of a cap, yeah.
I think there's 2. I think one is in 2026 for the FRSC to do a review with some of the concerns raised at this meeting on the procedural bylaw and the code of conduct, and to come back before the year end. In addition, to review the merits and recommendations to the board on a cap or a maximum on the financial penalty sanction.
Okay.
Yeah. Jennifer, you got it recorded?
Yeah, we've got it recorded.
They'll put that together. Does someone want to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Okay, motion by Carrie. Did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Second by Sarah.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded?
No, yes, I'm for it.
You're for it? Okay. Okay, Carrie,
Great.
thank you very much. Good discussion and good points, yeah. Okay, we're going to move forward with elections.
Okay. I was given the directive, Chair, to
Yeah.
talk about this. I understand that we are very unique in this election. I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. Our procedural bylaw does have a rotating chair, vice chair, past chair system. This year, as far as I can remember, we do have, I believe, John, you were up for the option to be the chair. Is that correct? I think it's
Yeah.
John.
Congratulations. Oh,
And I believe at this time we were also going to consider whether or not the vice chair was, thank you, rural district. And then yourself, Chair, would move into past chair.
Past chair.
So those are 3 separate votes. Today we don't have the rural district representative director here with us. We have the alternate. So I think we can consider maybe putting that vote aside and moving forward just with past chair and chair. What? What do you mean?
yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are comfortable with it, then you can accept the nomination of your representative to be vice chair.
I accept.
Okay, perfect. So this is the the order. We
Formula.
have the formula that has been established by the last board. As you can see, it's just a little bit of a rotation that would just continue in the same order going forward. Of course, anyone who is put up for nomination in that year can say that they would like to pass it on, and then we would just have a vote for anyone willing to take the position. So I will leave it to you. The first vote is suggested to be that the board appoint Director John McKenzie as the chairperson from June 2026, so starting tomorrow, until May 27th, 2027, or until the board elects a new chair.
Someone want to make that motion? I don't know which one was first.
Sarah?
Sarah?
Yeah.
Sarah, then Matt.
Okay.
That John become the new chair of this commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. And to Cassie's point, when it comes time your turn, if you have too much on the go or can't do it, your alternate can do it, or you just hand it to the next person. Right.
So the second vote here then would be that the board appoints Director Ray Riddell as vice chairperson from June 26, 2026 until May 27th, 2027, or until the FRSC board elects a new vice chairperson.
Should we put
Or alternate?
Or alternate.
Or alternate?
Yes.
Yes.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
Sarah?
Okay, perfect. I
Yes,
just wanted
it'd be
to
good to have both of them in there. Because if Ray's too busy or traveling or whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I need someone to
Yep.
make that motion?
Someone to make that motion that we accept Ray.
Thank you.
Carrie?
Carry two.
Carrie
So
two. Second by Carrie one.
Just to make it easy.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Lovely.
All right, wonderful.
I have one for Rob, so that the board appoint Director Rob Doucette as the past chairperson from June 26, 2026 until May 27th, 2027, or until the FRSC elects a new past chair. Sarah?
Carry will second, carry two.
Thank you.
Carry two. So basically, when you're done, you move up to executive. Next one moves in. Next moves up, and that's the executive moving forward.
Lovely, so vote on that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you.
Lovely.
Well done. Good. Thank you, Cassie. Okay, appointment of auditors for the 2026 fiscal year. Phil.
All right, so, our auditors for the most recent fiscal year and, going back quite a ways has been T. Sanders Doyle.
Mm.
They are the auditors as well for a number of our team members and have worked with the commission, and are very familiar with all of the complexities of our audit file, mainly the asset retirement obligation, for the landfill. Our recommendation is that we continue to appoint them. They've provided us with a quote for the next 3 years, increasing annually by 500, and that is an increase of 500 on last year's bill as well. It amounts to about 3%. So very reasonable increase, and we've had very good service with them. So it is our recommendation that the board reappoints them as our auditors for 2026.
Move the recommendation.
Yeah. Moved by John, second by Carrie two, Carrie one. Did you get that, Cass?
Yes, I'm trying to deal with this guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh. I want to rush you there.
No, it's okay. Carry one, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
John and Carrie. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Presentation of annual report.
I'm we have the hyperlink of the annual report. I am not intending to go through the whole thing today. We're going to be talking about our services later on in the budget discussion. But I did think that I wanted to make a couple comments on it, on some key features of it. But before I do, one thing when you look at an annual report, you get to reflect a little bit. And one of the things that I reflect on when looking at this document that Maggie, who is our communications lead for the organization, is handing out. We haven't met her yet. She's fantastic.
This is fantastic, Maggie, and everybody.
Yeah, she does a lot of great work for us. But when we reflect on this annual report, it's just the progress made since, like, I would call it ground zero. And ground zero is when the province told you all that your geographies have changed and your services have changed, and that was a rough time. And for us to get to a space where we're producing the recommendations and the progress that we are as a region, and we're trying to figure out what fits for our members, I think it's really quite important. The other thing that I really want to acknowledge is the staff. Each one of your communities have people that work for you. And you know how much they work for you. You see them at your council meetings. For RDAC, I know it's a little different. You have the rural district manager, but you have this staff. And for the Regional Service Commission, it's a little bit removed. I don't think you'd have the same type of ownership or feeling, but there's this whole team thinking about all the time, how do we bring value to our members? How do we respond? How do I make this service impactful for our members? And they're really the heart and soul of what we do here. And a lot of this is the accomplishments of our staff driving that, and the committee members that support them in an advisory role, and the board that supports it. So we're really lucky that we have this network of both volunteers, staff, leaders in our community, and that's really the only way that this can work, if it all kind of meshes together. The slides I wanted to share are on page 8 and 7, I believe.
Not page 6 with the pictures?
No. Yeah, the pictures. Looking at your pictures. I thought I'd just share these two slides out. So on page 8, you'll see about the funding that we were able to leverage from third party, which is relevant, right? We can't change the services, the mandates. I can't do that. I can't be like, not one of our mandates. We can't do that. But what we can do is that we can take the eagerness for the impact that has on our members to find more money. So yes, everybody that you see that is a staff person in this room is hawkish at finding more money. That is what they're very interested in doing, because as soon as we find money, it reduces the burden on our members. So it is like ultimately always well received when we find money. So we are knocking on doors regularly. And when you look at this graph at the bottom of page 8, that's our total budget of membership fees of the year. And the amount of membership fees that are paid for by those grants are 37%. So it's more than the highest paid member pays into the organization on membership fees. And I think that's really relevant, that's something that we continue to strive for, is that we have to do that. I wish it was even bigger, but there's only so many doors we can knock on. And then on the other side of the page, if we go to the next page on page 9, we also want to acknowledge where the revenue comes from in our organization. So you can see those external funding grants there, 16.3, and when you see the 23.3 million, that's our overall budget. That's a different number than membership fees, which was the prior number. And for those of you that are new, we have a different revenue stream with our solid waste service, right? We don't charge you membership fees for that. We charge tipping fees. So one thing that's, I think, really important to see here is that you see that external funding, you see the community contributions in green, but when you look at our overall budget, 42.9 comes in from ICI. This is the institutional, commercial, and industrial tipping fee for people that come in. So the majority, almost half of our overall budget is financed not through municipalities. They're funded through this 2/3 of the money of the landfill come from these tipping fees on there. And then you see the solid waste tipping fees, the 11.4. So it's all to say that it's a pretty interesting stuff. And then if you go down to the bottom, you can see kind of the overall allocation per service area for each one of those. And for those of you who've heard me recently at your councils, we talk about matured services and maturing services. Well, the three, what I would call matured services, are regional facilities. We've been doing that since the 90s. Solid waste and economic development and tourism promotion, which accounts for approximately 90% of our budget. So all these other services fall into the small little pie on the remaining services that we provide, and we try to make it work as much as we can with the budget that we have. So that's it for the annual report. I wanted to share with you just a couple things. Please enjoy it. A lot of work goes into this, and it's a big part of our transparency and reporting and celebration of what we do. And this year, it just so happens, it was not, Rob had nothing to do with it, but we did use a cover photo of Hampton. So.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank
This
you
is
for
a
this.
receive and file.
Yeah. Motion to receive and file. Moved by John, second by Carrie. One. All in favor? Contrary minded? Carried. Nice job in this, by the way. It's very nice. I really like that front page picture. I don't know how that worked out, but it's nice. Oh, thank you. Okay, moving on. Envision is not here.
Yep.
So we would go to committee's agendas.
So receive and file.
Receive and file for the committee agenda, please. Moved by John, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Carried. Thank you. Regional Facilities Committee.
Recommendation in there.
Yeah. I just deleted that somehow. I don't know how I did it.
That's okay, I can read the motion if you like.
Please.
That the board accept the capital change request as prepared by the St. John Trade and Convention Center and recommended for approval by the Regional Facilities Committee, and approve the reallocation of $35,000 of the 2026 capital budget to an electric half combi oven.
Need a motion from John, seconder.
Second.
Second from Carrie, one. All in favor?
Aye.
On the question, sorry. I should do
guess-
that.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. I guess one of the things I had a question about was that, and I have no issues with it, but the reason they had a surplus was because they seemed to really overestimate their other expenses. So that's, when you look at what they budgeted, thinking what it cost, like their budgeting and their projections were quite whacked with what the reality was. And I just don't know if that's the norm in terms of, like.
It's a really good question, and you'll experience it because we're getting the recommendations now for 2027, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because you want them to have some padding, because if you've done any tendering recently, like it's a guessing game sometimes. So you don't want them to underestimate, because then you're really out of luck. Because then they'd say, well, we need more money. It's like, well, you didn't budget for it, so you're out of luck. And then you don't want them to do the opposite, where it's so padded. But we've seen both instances where they've come to us and says tendering is higher than expected, and we've seen the opposite, which is tendering is lower than expected in this situation. And I don't know if you know what this is all about, this particular oven, but if you guys went to the hospice gala, they realized that there was a real vulnerability in the kitchen, and basically everybody didn't have a protein. They couldn't serve the chicken, and it was because they didn't have a backup ready to go. So this is to prevent that. They realized how vulnerable they were, and they were able to make this recommendation. The committee reviewed it, all the CAOs, and they believed it was a good recommendation.
And I do agree, it seems like it's risk mitigation. I guess, in terms of where they found the savings, I just didn't know if there was a process in place, where, an ice machine, carpet cleaner, grill upgrade, you'd think that you could have got quotes for that before you submitted your budget, and then built in a certain percentage, but I mean, they budgeted like $25,000 and it cost 13, that's a pretty significant over budget. I just didn't know if there was a process that they typically use to actually project what budgeted items they're asking for.
If I may, not to answer directly that, but for, as part of the terms of reference for the Regional Facilities Committee, any changes to the capital budget, so either overages in projects or additional new projects, have to be brought to the committee and recommended to the board for approval. So if there is a difference in what was estimated versus what they proceed with, it then gets approval. So to add some peace of mind for if that budgeting process, if there's an issue with that, any substantive changes would then get board approval in this instance, because it's a reallocation, we're approving the addition of the project, so to ensure that there's proper oversight in the event that
Show up as a
happens.
surplus at the end of the year if they didn't have an unexpected expense.
It wouldn't be a surplus from capital. We have 3 years currently, or I think it's 2 years in our current terms of reference, and we're reviewing the terms of reference for that committee right now. So it'd be 3. We're looking at bringing it to 3 years and looking at adding provisions for recommendations for a vote for what to do with that. If there are additional funds left over, how that gets used, if that can be distributed. So that is part of the Regional Facilities Committee work currently. Thank you. That answers your question.
Okay.
So we have a mover and a seconder.
Oh, Sarah, moved by Sarah, second by
Carry two.
Carrie too. Question on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Carried, thank you. Okay, reads the facilities annual reports.
This is really a receive and
Receive
file. Yep.
Motion to receive and file that report from John 1 to Matt 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. New business.
Yes, we do have the addition from closed, so this would be a letter to Minister Kennedy. How would you like this worded?
Submit the letter to Minister Kennedy as discussed in closed session.
So we can receive and file all of them?
That's a motion to submit the letter to Minister Kennedy.
Okay.
But then the next one will be receive and file.
Okay. So we'll have a motion to send that letter off that we discussed in close. So a motion from Sarah, second by Carrie 2.
One.
Carrie 1, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded?
Mixed up on 2 now.
No, I see what I'm on. Doesn't take a lot.
How long you been
This is
sitting
my
in that
last
chair?
meeting, this is my last chair meeting, just so you know.
There's like a new meaning to when you say motion carried.
Motion
Oh,
carried.
yeah, I know. I keep perking up every time I hear that.
You're saying like.
Well, the new chair will change that. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay, so we entertain a motion to receive and file the remaining correspondence there at 9.1, 9.2 to 9.4, moved by John, 1, second by Matt, 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Carried. Motion to adjourn,
So,
moved by John, neither seconder.
Carry two.
Carry.
Third one.
Okay.
Perfect.
Carry 1. Thank you, everybody.
We'll take a quick break and then we'll start the
And
next
Johnny says
session. We're right on time.
after
Yep, it's great.
Contrary, I was thinking that he was saying you.
I know. I
Oh,
was
that
too.
is hilarious. It just like,
What's that?
the light dawns slowly, but I was thinking that she was
And I guess,
contrary.
they can't
She's Carrie.
Every second you say contrary, and then you say carry, and
I
I'm like,
know.
oh, she really voted against everything.
Old habits, eh? Yeah. That's a good point, though. All
Take a
right.
break here before committee of the whole.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little bit less formal, so I just am gonna take a record of attendance and then disclosure of conflict of interest. So nothing crazy. we'll just call it to order. I'll record the time and
Yeah.
do general notes.
Yep.
Unless you instruct me to put anything specific down, in which case I'll throw something out.
So we're going to this next, community hall, right?
Yeah,
All right.
Give a break, get a coffee, you want a coffee?
Can I have a coffee? I don't know, Mike. You guys don't have to do that. Oh, yeah. So- Nice. Look at you. I said I want one just like John's.
Oh, I got nice wood carving too.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Your pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I need a glass of water. Can I get you any?
No, I've gotta do some other stuff.
No. Those days are gone. It's like, what did I have for breakfast? Yeah.
I'm so mad sitting. My right knee, it needs to be replaced. That was years ago, and now it's gotten really bad. I just stand up so bad. I stand up, I can barely stand. And I get moving, it's all right. Anyways, it is what it is. Got the left one done, got the F done. I guess it is. Time for new parts. Yeah, all sucks.
Yeah.
Not for the week.
This is not my computer, but.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No. Good. That even blows me. Good, how are you? Good, good to see you.
See you.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, yeah, you?
Yeah. Yeah. Starting
Yeah.
new 4 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Last 4 years, I think.
Did you have this working?
Your last 4 years?
Oh, okay.
Maggie, the password for this is not working.
Time to go. Let somebody else take it over.
Do you have a big changeover in your council, Rob?
Three. And they're good.
So,
Yeah.
which one are you
Some good ones there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So that'll be it.
Yeah, that's always, it's nice.
Do you think it's working?
I don't know.
One
I gotta forward it to the guest,
person changed.
if it'll let me.
Do stuff right.
Yeah.
No, I just couldn't
We've
get
been really
in.
fortunate that way, and we got lucky again this time. So
Maggie?
there was a couple that were running that.
Yes, I did.
Well,
You
one of them
said
was
it was
running for
public,
council
right?
as soon as.
Oh. You're kidding.
I
read, but didn't get it.
Okay.
No.
As long as we can over with
He
you.
said, you guys in my life, and you need to get on council.
Are we not using the owl?
I'm trying.
No,
I just don't know how to.
Do you want Sonia to help you?
Yeah, Luke's a good guy. Rob Garrett's a great guy.
Oh, good. Yeah,
I don't know.
Really nice fellow.
I'm flustered. Just give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
One from Arizona.
Many changes on your
Colorado,
calendar?
and
Yeah, big change.
Gabe Poultry,
Yeah.
who owns Woodman
Yeah.
Allstate.
Yeah.
And he's young.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
A little too keen right now, but we're going all right. You realize that. Oh.
Present.
Okay, yeah, I'll just
A lot of
close.
changes.
Thank you.
Potentially the last one.
Yes.
And then I have to print the letters and let me know.
Very young. They won't be there.
Oh my God. I don't want to verify
I was
right
before he,
now.
yeah, I said,
Jamie, there's coffee and water up there and muffins, and please help yourself. Don't be shy.
I have to move it a ton. Uh-oh. Good, how are you?
I'll introduce you here soon, and might just say hi and then say you're sitting in for this first part.
Sure, whatever you want. Yeah. Okay.
We don't have
11 minutes
I'm
until-
gonna get Mark to sign it.
Oh, yeah.
This one?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Is it just mileage?
I think it's just mileage.
Just mileage, Rob?
Yeah.
All right, I'll approve
You own one now.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good to know. I own. Next time we're
Just
ready.
looking after you.
Oh, thank you. I'll get you a beer next time we're ready.
Yes. How you think it out? Yeah, that's a good one. I don't drink too much anyway.
I'm just gonna turn this off for now. It's
Yeah,
not like
please.
we're using it.
Well,
But we have presentations.
I have the budget, yeah.
Okey-doke.
So.
That's good. You good? Feel good? Okay. What do you need? Want a coffee? Want a Red Bull? Diet Coke?
Diet Coke. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so you've got your budget planning.
What I
What
need-
do you need up for this?
What I need is the latest presentation I sent you.
Right, that's right.
Last night.
You can do that, here you go. Just give you a stamp.
And then-
But no, I gotta get there. I hate.
Oh, the signing authority.
Sign it for-
We're gonna set a letter to get the positions changed over.
Is it for signing authority?
This is just for me, and then I'm gonna do a separate letter to get the positions updated and changed.
Okay, yeah, because he's out. He's out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. As of tomorrow.
Hang on. Okay.
So long.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez. Yeah. So we're going to committee the whole?
It's community the whole open, yeah. So I think you still kind of chair it.
Not here, but, yeah.
Just informal. Relax. There's no real motions that we're making here.
Yeah.
We're really just getting some feedback, so it'll take it from here.
That's what I like.
I don't love being IT and recruiting secretary at the same time. Just so you know.
It can be complicated.
It's gonna help because it doesn't work good for me. Okay.
Like a cartoon.
Just a little.
John, see his tag here? Coming to you.
We're gonna move to ETM, like we're gonna do an electronic transfer funds, like we're gonna try, but a lot of our vendors still use.
How many of those do you have to sign?
Huh?
How many of those?
This is a big one.
About that thick.
It's the end of business.
First order of business, we're gonna get that.
We are working on it, Laura's.
That way there you can do as much electronic as you can, and then it's less. Some places they want things they
I haven't even shown Rob all the minutes he's got to
No,
sign
I
today.
know.
You what?
I haven't even shown Rob all the minutes he has to sign today. He's behind.
We would have some EFT.
As long as I get home in time to feed the cats, I guess we'll be okay.
We're good to go.
My wife's away.
I'm
so-
good to go.
Okay, let's do it.
How many times a month do you do that?
No, once.
Once a
Oh, no.
month.
Weekly.
Weekly, every week.
No, it's not this big.
No,
Not that
usually.
big.
But you'd be surprised how much we come find you. So
Yeah.
we
They'll
he
take-
doesn't
We
come
track
in.
you down,
They
John.
take it, they bring it to
So
my
we did
house
that
or
with
wherever.
Jen, we did it, and then there's usually somebody in our office that lives out there,
Yeah.
wherever that is.
Well, I don't live in Hampton.
I know.
mean, I can come in
I
here.
think we'll
4 minutes, I can
we'll,
be
we'll
here.
Yeah.
find you.
Yeah, 4 minutes.
Come on, John, I'm ready to track you down all the time.
Yeah, my wife has Find My Friend on my phone, so
Oh.
I don't have to tell her I'm in Sobeys. She just
See?
pick me up something while you're in there.
It's funny how the wives put that on your phone, eh? Like, mine goes, this is good to have, and I'm going, really? Really? And she goes, well, that way there, I know if you've made it to your meeting or whatever. I'm going, oh, no.
Perhaps we can get started. We're going to go into committee of the whole open.
Yeah. Who are we missing? Oh,
John's
John.
here, he's just checking.
There's no votes in this, so it's not super formal.
Yeah. Good. More of an name.
Okay, order at 11:15.
Yes. Should I call John over?
Yeah.
John?
They want you back. Well, yeah, thank you.
So I will say, Board, the tour of the, landfill is very, very cool, very informative, and you realize how big a deal it is and, how well it's run and
How many bags are we allowed to bring, like?
as many as you want. Anything you want, free. No tipping fee for you.
No tipping fee, right? I'll bring a couple anyway.
Accounting will be there to calculate that.
Okay, we are going in the committee of the whole meeting right now. So I'll call it to order and record of attendance.
I got her.
Thank you. Disclosure of conflict of anybody that has conflict of interest at any time to the meeting, please remove yourself at that time from the board. Okay. 2027 budget planning. I'm going to hand it over to Phil.
Yeah, great. Before we get started, this is a long day together, so we've got to kind of take this as a marathon, not a sprint today. But in the afternoon, we've got a consultant coming in, and he's already joined us. He's going to be just kind of viewing this part of the meeting. This is an open part of the meeting. It's public. But it is Jamie Gamble. He's sitting right in the audience there. I first met Jamie in the late 2000s, I think, in some leadership training that I'd received and some coaching from him at that time, and we've kind of connected multiple times since then. I've heard him work with various organizations, primarily around evaluation, change management. One thing I really like about him and his company, Imprint Consulting, is that he does everything. He's worked with private sector. He's done a whole bunch of work on the nonprofit sector. He's worked with the public sector. So he brings a lot of that knowledge in what he does. And he's also done kind of individual coaching and team development as well. So it was kind of an easy decision to say, I think Jamie can help us with our discussion this afternoon. He is, and again, not by design, and you guys are going to start thinking about how we select our pictures in front of our reports and our consultants, but Jamie is from Hampton. Yay! And he comes with this abundance of credibility, knowledge, and I really like the idea of him helping us navigate these conversations as we onboard this new team that we have. So he's going to be silent during this first session, but I thought you'd just know that that's who that man is.
So just 2 seconds. Mark, we're even.
Oh, you're paying mine.
I just
Good
signed
man.
yours. Yeah, we're even.
See?
Sorry, Bill.
Yep. Budget. Like, this is not fun. You guys just go to your first board meeting and you're like, why is the CEO guy telling me we're talking about budget of next year? And I don't disagree with you that it's a little bit eye-rolly-ish. But let me try to explain kind of what's happening. We are required by legislation to pass a budget by October, before November of every year. And to get that started, we also have a requirement of a 45-day review period, which is not like local governments don't have this. So what happens is you gotta ultimately submit a budget by August of the year before in order for the councils to have 45 days to review and then to submit a final recommendation for adoption to make that deadline of end of October. For us, what we've noticed is that even that, there's a lot of back and forth that happens from August until October. Like I went through one budget, there's 7 iterations of the budget. So one of the things I've tried to introduce as this process is let's try to get an earlier version debated earlier in the process. So for us to do that, there's only one other meeting, it's July. So to give you a recommendation in July of an initial budget concept to kind of work with, we got to start today. And that's why this session is here, is that we're gonna bring you up to speed on some services. We're gonna start getting your input onto the budget so that your fingerprints are already on the budget by the first draft in July, and then there'll be another iteration of feedback, and then by the time August comes, you should be very well aware of what we're planning and where it's going. We do have a budget process and criteria approved by the board. It's a standard thing, it happens every year, and this makes sure that the direction of what these recommendations are tied to the interests of our members. The engagement involves multiple sources. The committees are involved in budget development, the board, the CAOs, and of course staff as well. The big thing that's changed from past years is that the board has really requested more deliberate effort around weighting of the services. And I'll maybe just explain that a little bit. Since we got started, some of our services are brand new, and the mandate is start flipping some rocks, try to figure out what you should do. And everybody agreed that that was the right thing to do. Like, if you don't know where you should lean into, tell us options of where you can. So we did that, and we started to find out where we're stronger, where we're weaker, where there's not a good strength. So we did that exercise. And right now, there's a feeling of, okay, we've done that, now we'd like you to start flipping a bigger rock. Find a big boulder that you really want to flip, and use that as your impetus for finding tangibility and impact in the community. So that might mean that it's not about flipping every rock anymore, it's about really focusing your attention in one particular space that matters more to the members than all our services. So that's essentially one of the exercises we'll do today. Go to the next slide. These are the budget development criteria. It's defined in one of the links that are part of the agenda packet for Committee of the Whole. This, again, we're developing recommendations with these values and criteria in mind when we develop a budget. Again, pre-approved by the last board, but we'll continue this. If there's ever any feedback or questions on this, we can certainly review this, but want to make sure you're aware of it because it guides staff's time. Go to the next slide. Okay, so a couple drivers and variables for the year that are relevant before we start talking and thinking about budget 2027. There was some surpluses that we achieved in 2025, and for those of you aware of this, if you boast a surplus in the municipal sector, it transfers over, or deficit, it transfers over, it skips a year and goes to the next year. So if I boast a surplus in 2025, it is experienced in 2027, 2026 because the audited financial statements come out in 2026. Same thing with a deficit. So from the FRSC standpoint, we did boast a few different in our different departments, some surpluses which will help us get started in 2027 successfully. However, last year we had one-time funding and we used it to pay down our operating costs last year, which is a prerogative that the board could choose, and we had that one-time funding. But what that means is it's going to cost us more in 2027 to do the same work because we don't have that one-time funding anymore. So it's about a $200,000 differential. So right away, that's not a good news in terms of maintaining the same level of service, but with a reduction. The biggest, what would I call it? Wild card. That's what I'll call it. Wild card is regional facilities. We're just starting to receive the budget proposals on the operating costs of all the facilities and the projected capital costs of the facilities for 2027. And there was a deficit on one of the facilities in 2025, and that transfers those over to us as well. So that's something that we have to take on. We also have one facility that has to figure out a whole new business model for 2025 if they're closed down for the construction of the aquatic center. And then we have two major capital projects. I would say not major, but significant. One major, one significant. The Canada Games Aquatic Center is one, and then the other is initial work on the roof of TD Station, which was happening around the same time. The good news is that the city did a bunch of work and they could transfer the cost out over multiple years, and it's not urgent to do the biggest piece of work right away in 2027. So we kind of avoided a major disaster with that, but that is going to put pressure on us. As those prices go up, that's additional cost on the organization, and if they're too high, there's not an ability to find those savings in other service areas without dramatic impact. So that's a major wild card, I think, is the easiest way to say, and I can't give you the direct answer now, but initial indications are that those are pretty high numbers. They'll be higher than they were last year, for sure, for those costs. The other one is regional transit planning. So as you know, we've been doing the surveying, we've talked about regional transit, what will it look like? Are we going to be introducing 7 new buses in 2027? No, that's not our goal. But arguably something should happen, right? There's still a need to show some progress with our effort towards a regional transit system, and there'll be a recommendation that's formulated. So yes, some additional costs are expected. Good news on that is that usually when the funding is available, you can get up to 90% funding from the federal and provincial governments for a real significant pilot for transit, especially in a regional format. So that's good news. Bad news is that's only usually for year one, and then it starts dropping 70% the next year, then 50% the next year, and then they cut you off from there. So that level of subsidy, as St. John will know, never sticks around forever. You'll eventually have to sustain that yourself. So something that we'll have to discuss. The other driver is the RSC review. I think everybody knows that there's a review of the regional service commissions that happened last year. Recommendations have been submitted by the consultants. They have not shared anything related to those. We have heard that it's tweaks, it's not massive change that are being proposed, and that they aren't going to make any significant changes in 2027. That any significant changes would happen the earliest in 2028. But I do believe we'll start learning more about it in the next 6 months. That's what I understand. So that doesn't change per se our budget, but it does influence where we might be going from what we hear from what that review and what the intentions of the province are. So those are the drivers, and I think we go to presentations. Any questions on that before we go to the next step? So, in order to prepare for you, we have like, we're gonna do a weighting exercise at the end of this. So by the end of this, we're gonna set you all up and you're gonna say, okay, with the information I have, where would I put my focus, right? Before we get there, you need to learn a little bit more about our services, and it's a great opportunity to get to know our staff a little bit more as well. So I have not told staff that they have unlimited time. I told them they have 5 minutes to give you kind of a rapid fire. And the thought is, you should get to know a little bit about each service, where our success has been, where our focus has been, where our focus is now. And since we're talking about 2027, what's it look like next year? What would be the emphasis? Where is the committee saying we should be going? What's the trend line of where we're going? And that will give you a good idea. So we're going to do these presentations. We're going to kind of tick them off. And if you've got any questions through them, pass the questions off. This whole session, and there's another meeting after this in this committee of the whole, is supposed to wrap us up at 12:30. So we've got an hour to do all this work. So I will hold the staff accountable to the 5 minutes, and if you guys are asking too many questions, I'll tell you guys that there are too many questions. You just got to keep going in the agenda, and you'll get mad at me, and that's how we'll go. So I think Mark is first, if you have a presentation out.
I'm trying to find the presentation.
It's not mine.
It's not in this,
It's
right?
it's a separate one then.
No idea where it is.
It's in the link of the agenda.
This one here?
The first one is there. Okay, Mark, before we go, I think the first one is admin, but you sit right there. We're gonna tackle this quick.
Gotta pull it up.
Okay, for the context of this discussion, local governments tend to have one or two budgets. They have an overall operating budget, and then they'll have a utility budget, that's an operating, and then they might also have a capital budget as well. The FRSC is a little different. Every service we provide is its own budget. That's how the government wants us to do it. So they're totally autonomous budgets. Some of them have autonomous revenue streams like the landfill. However, for us, because they're all separated, how do you deal with something like corporate costs? How do you pay for this office? How do you pay for Phil's salary? How do you pay for a recording? How do you pay for per diem of board members? What you do is you create what's called allocation from corporate. So every department has a share of costs for the lights, the insurance, everything. And that is broken down. So it's not its own department, but it's an enabling service that goes through across. So this is really what this is speaking to, is this admin and governance. They tend to spread across all the departments, but it's not a line department in itself. In 2026, you've seen a couple things happen already. The orientation of the board was big for us. We want to make sure we got that right. The dashboard, we have a customer satisfaction tool that we are working on that we want to roll out this year, and a communication strategy, and almost done the review of all the terms of references of all the committees. In 2027, the big projects that we see coming is there's this idea that the FRSC should become more involved in continuous improvement efforts within its organization, so with the 5 regional facilities and economic development, and perhaps in the future with your communities. And what that means is there a better way to deliver a better service for less or raise more revenue? That could be we all have the same insurance company. It could be that we all use the same cybersecurity, or we hire a lawyer that we could all use for labor relations. These are all just ideas, but they're framed in continuous improvement. And we really receive that mandate, and it's embedded in our culture because of the landfill. The landfill has embraced this since its existence, and we need to become stronger and more ambitious across all our departments. So we're looking to do a demonstration project, a large one in 2027. And then obviously in 2027, we're going to renew our strategy. So we're going to pursue a strategic planning exercise in 2027, and we already know that that's something that we've got a plan for. With that, let's move to solid waste.
Thank you, Phil. Mr. Chair, thank you, and welcome to everybody. Congratulations, I think. Anyway, I'm gonna start. Okay, bingo. Yeah, I look forward to hosting you next month, probably with a meeting, but probably more, for me, it'd be more on the orientation and tour. The facility in your kit, you would have seen, maybe not the hard copy version, but your online version, you would see there's a solid waste action plan. It's tied into the current strategy and probably in the other future strategy. It's a 15-year plan from 2025 to 2030. Within that, we have the Solid Waste Public Engagement Committee. That's here comes my pitch for those that are interested. Our system is set up so that the engagement committee populates the work plans for the following year, or recommends the population of the work plan to the board. And so the current 5-year segment of the plan has basically 6 categories: odor, water protection, diversion, revenue, cost, fire safety, and public relations. I just added landfill site at the bottom because we do stuff maybe outside of the direct strategy. For 2026, for odor, so we had during our EIA process to go to a higher landfill height, we had some complaints about odor. Nothing to do with going higher, just had to do with the fact that it was COVID and we had no supply chain for parts, but at the end of the day it became one of the major themes. We had a landfill gas utilization study done last year in 2025. It found that because of our compost program, we have no fuel to support any future expansion of utilization of energy from landfill gas. But that being said, we did put an EnviroSuite system in, which is a air quality monitoring system, active 24/7, database historical to the point of when it was started running, so we'll have it for years. And that points out that our smelliest part of the landfill is actually our working phase. So we decided to start going with horizontal landfill gas well installations in 2026. 2027, we're looking to validate our EnviroSuite system. We do have some federal regulations changing, and so we're going to be actually looking to mirror that against the satellite landfill gas mapping. So we'll be bringing in satellites to do a measure on that. That'll be, and then we'll do a comparative and try and justify the compost program through the greenhouse gas requirements of the federal government. Under water protection, we have our surge pond relocation. Currently it's located in cell 17. We're moving it out. This will allow us some flexibility and retention, treatment, but more importantly, it just protects us against any unforeseen circumstances with treatment at the St. John water system, wastewater treatment facility. So that's a 3-year project. Phase 1 starting right now. We're going in, digging our boreholes, checking the quality of the ground underneath, and mapping, footprinting the actual facility. The bulk of the work will be done next year. We are going out to your councils and stuff this year. Phil alluded to it earlier with regards to the benefits of the bag limit program. St. John and Hampton both have it. It was at the summit last year for those that were around, and I believe it was November. And so basically we're going to be going out and saying, hey, this is a great thing, and try and persuade your councils to kind of adopt a similar system to either St. John or Hampton. So we'll have a little chat about that. Next year for that same thing for diversion, we're looking at doing an ICI, institutional commercial industrial tip fee differentiation program. So more about that later, I guess. EPR, these are the programs that we have, paint program, electronics program, oil program. For years we've been subsidizing those programs, but they've been operating at a surplus, so we're looking to recover our actual costs to support those programs through the provincial government's legislation under designated materials. Sorry if I'm jamming down everyone's throat. Upcycle, next year our big focus will be on the Upcycle project, which actually started it this year. For those of you who don't know, It's our number one supplemental and first question from everybody. When are you having your yard sale again, which we had in 2018? This is part of that. So we'll be having a yard sale this fall, but looking to expand that program into upcycle processes, which again, I can talk about more next month. We put in a fire break. It's a 50-meter buffer zone around the landfill to protect us from wildfires and protect the forest from us. And so we've done that. One of the things we are doing is looking at the land usage of that. That's a part of the program that'll carry into next year. And breaks are important because of things like lithium ion, which was a campaign that we're focusing on this year because they seem to be a reactionary fire source. I'm at 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Give me 40. We're also looking at putting in a compost demonstration site because our current recycling program has been taken over by the province under designated materials. So we support that with our own MRF, but the reality is we need to focus on composting. It's the single largest source of diversion that we have. On site, nothing to do with the strategy, it just has to do with practicality. We've approved a maintenance building. It was supposed to go in last year, but the building code changed on us, so it's going in this year. And so we have the footings all poured. And we also are looking at 2027, a compost retrofit. The facility's been operating for 25 years. The building itself's been replaced, the coverall portion, it's a fabric building because of the nature of the environment. It's been replaced in the last 5 years. It's the inspection line on the inside that needs to be replaced. So we're looking at that for 2027. Other than that, if we're looking at things that are scaring us for the new year, the material recovery facility, which is the recycling plant, we will be having a shutdown of that in 2027. This is part of the transition with the designated materials and recyclable materials. So that will be kind of one of the things that we're kind of focusing on. There's solid waste. When you come out, I can explain it even more, but it's good times. And by the way, we're best in class, and look how much we still have to change. Constant continuous improvement, so lots of fun. And if you have any questions, or you want a pre-tour, or you want to cheat and ask me questions beforehand, I'm all good. Come on out. That's it. We're all good?
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
I would
Cheers.
encourage
See
you
ya.
all to show up for the tour. That's good.
That was quick.
Thanks, Mark.
Sorry
great
it took so
job,
long.
Excellent work.
It's gonna take less than 5 minutes on this item.
Yeah, Scott said I could take 2 of it.
Sure. No. I'm Scott Borden. I'm the Senior Director of Community Planning and Transportation. Like a lot of the senior staff here, we've got dual roles, so you'll hear from me in a little bit on regional transportation. But I did just want to touch base. So we do offer community planning and building inspection. This is one of those matured services Phil mentioned. It's sort of something we've been doing since pre-reform in 2023, and so we do this for Fundy St. Martin's and the Fundy Rural District. So again, don't want to spend too much time on it because it's not one of those items that we're kind of doing regionally, but it is a local service that we do for 2 members. I should say we're a great team full of good professionals, and so if there is interest from any of the other local municipalities in the region to ever kind of look at local planning, not doing it in-house, that is something we do. So just wanted to throw that out there. But really, the priorities this year, we did the Fundy St. Martin's rural plan just a few years ago. We're doing the rural district rural plan this year. We're updating some other bylaws for Fundy St. Martin's as well this year, and we've implemented some new permitting software that's been pretty well received so far. So basically, we're just getting all of our plans up to date based on the geographies of the region, and this will be the first time there's a plan that covers once we have the rural district rural plan implemented, that means the full region is covered by land use plans, which is pretty exciting. In terms of our priorities for 2027, really it's just monitoring our existing plans, making sure they're working, and then as well as likely working on a private access guideline that would be applicable for the rural district. So just wanted to give a brief update on that service.
Scott?
Thank you. Any comments or questions to Scott? Or
Only because I'm from the Fundy Rural District and you're doing our plan.
Yeah.
Do we have further input or discussion on that, or is it done?
Oh, it's not done, no. It's very
Only
much
the
in.
discussion part.
Yeah, very much in the drafting process, so we will be doing further engagement with public.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question, sir.
We'll go to regional facilities, that's me. And I just want to maybe share, as you go through this, the percentage that this plays in our budget is at the top right. You can see that little graph, just to keep you kind of in track. This year has been heavy. Many staff are involved in the Aquatic Center project. We have Graham, who supports that project directly, sits on the project team with the staff from the City of St. John. We also hire an engineer with the City of St. John to oversee the project. And there's obviously a bunch of consultants involved. We've probably already spent, Graham probably knows the number, but probably in the realm of $1.5 million in total. Most of it is funded by third party, but it's a pretty significant. We did a Class D, we've done a Class C, we've done review. It's a pretty heavy project. We are, for those who are just getting into it now, it is towards the end of the project in terms before you go to construction. There's been about 1.5 years to 2 years of work into this now. So if you see some of the returning members get tired when we start talking about this project, it is the cycle of a project of this scale. It does take some time to get to where it is, and absolutely it's a little bit more complex when it's a regional-based project. So, so there's been a lot of effort there. Our Senior Director of Finance has also been involved pretty heavily on this. One of the things that we have here is deliver recommendations on alternatives to regional facilities capital. So I want to, you know the number one option, we talked about it today, which is this idea that the province of New Brunswick could intervene and find a solution that finds practical and sustainable resolution to this. That is our overwhelming number one best option. But we also have to make ourselves aware that waiting for a pass from the province isn't always lucrative. It doesn't always happen. So we can't convince ourselves that that's the only thing that could happen. We've got to be prepared that if that does not happen, what do? Are we all just going to come to every meeting and say, wow, that would have been awesome? No, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to still deal with the challenges we're facing with this regional facilities capital. And there'd be a whole other mechanism of going through that, and that's reviewing the formula, reviewing if we could borrow directly from the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board, whether there's merits in us owning the facilities from St. John, whether St. John would give us the facilities, whether we want to stay away from the facilities. All that stuff are things we would end up having to talk about, and we've avoided those conversations for the Hail Mary pass. So we will continue to wait for that Hail Mary pass, but I want to make you aware that, as soon as this goes through, excellent, high fives all around. If it doesn't go through, we've got to prepare ourselves. And that is something that could happen this year. Next, 2027. The biggest thing that we've heard, and it has been unresolved, is that the governance of regional facilities isn't optimal. You've got 4 of the facilities have their own board of directors, okay? And some of those board of directors have regional representation. They develop them to make sure that there's a voice around that facility board. So TD Station, there's reps from across the region. The only one that doesn't have one is Convention Center. It has a board, but it doesn't meet. They give budget recommendations, these individual boards, to a regional facilities committee, which is comprised of each CAO and rural district manager and 2 elected officials from our board. Perfect regional representation. The recommendations of that committee go to a board, this board. Perfect regional representation. It's a little overkill on the regional representation. That's 3 layers of regional representation, 3 layers of oversight, and the money comes from the members. And so you got a board that doesn't actually raise the revenue, that comes to seek it from somewhere else. Capital decisions are made by the city on the day-to-day and the execution. So is it the most optimal? Like the governance of this? Not sure. There's been enough evidence for me to say we've got to look into this. We've got to provide a recommendation on how this should be done and how we would actually run regional facilities more effectively. So that's one. The other one is this whole idea around pursuing a local infrastructure joint application. I don't know what that looks like yet, but each community seeks federal and provincial funding for something, and our ability to leverage federal and provincial funding would be that much stronger if we could come to an agreement on a joint application for all of us. So if it's roads, if we have a total combination of like $60 to $70 million that we have on all the road reconstruction, well, if we submitted it as one application instead of just Fundy St. Martin's or just St. John, what would be our chances? So the CAOs are interested in this space. I don't know what the topic is yet. That's what we've got to figure out. Where's the uniting voice? But let's look into seeing if that could be done, where we would apply as a region, and the money would not come to FRSC, it would come back to your communities, but hopefully at a higher level than if you did it independently. That's it. That's the main focus for regional facilities in 2027.
Regional
That's
transmission.
Okay, I'll also try and be brief again because we've got a whole session planned after this to talk a little bit more about our regional transit plan and where that's going. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. But that's been the big focus for regional transportation and our regional transportation committee this year. There's been other great exercises like we've done. We're kind of in the middle of finishing up our origin destination survey. So that looks at where folks travel within the region to and from communities, et cetera. So that'll give really great data for the folks working at the local government level in terms of the kind of travel demand and that kind of thing. The other thing we do too is we've had our third iteration of our Sustainable Transportation Week, so that's really designed to get people thinking more about trying a sustainable mode of transportation, right? So those were some of our priorities this year. And so really the intent is to finish up this transit study this year and then understand what that looks like and then what we're doing in 2027 with that work, right? So as Phil kind of alluded to, it could be kind of like a phased approach. Maybe we're not doing everything at once, but you know, again, that kind of comes back to this board to make that decision. So that's going to be a huge amount of work likely next year to actually implement what comes of that plan.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
We good.
Yes,
absolutely. Comments or questions?
I was just curious, because when I was looking at the annual report, there seems to be a fair amount of overlap when it comes to like built environments with the social piece and the transportation piece. And I'm just wondering how those two groups work in synergy, because, you know, when I look at the action items, transportation, even though it's clearly significant social determinant of the built environments, doesn't seem to get as much play because there's lots of other issues like insecurity and homelessness. But then I see the transportation focusing more on, again, like buses.
Yeah.
Because again, there's only so much
Yeah.
that you can prioritize. So I'm just
Yeah.
wondering where the interplay is, because of course I'm big on active transportation.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering where that fits in all of this.
Yeah, it's a huge consideration for our transit plan itself. And my colleague Brenda and I we're she's responsible for our community development file, so we're in she's very much helping me out on this, probably as a number two maybe on this project. And I think too, one thing I've been thinking of is like, could those committees almost have like one person that kind of sits on both, so that there is sort of this interplay between both. But I think it's something we're cognizant of, and I think maybe the language isn't quite there, but I think it's something we're in tune with and kind of working on, if that helps answer your question.
It does.
Yeah.
I just think, I see in province right now,
Yeah.
They've just launched a physical activity
Yeah.
strategy, they're doing an active
Yeah.
transportation study. So it's just like following the money, and it seems
Yeah.
like that's kind of where,
Yeah.
and then when you
Yeah.
think about, social determinants, it's not just always
Yeah.
jumping on a bus, it could be just
Yeah.
making sure that there's safe infrastructure for
Yeah.
people to take their scooter,
For
and,
sure. Yeah.
So I just kind of, I'm not seeing a whole lot of it, but I also appreciate that there's a billion other things to
Yeah.
prioritize. And I
Yeah.
just didn't know if it was getting lost because it was kind of lower
Yeah.
down on both agendas.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say so. And I did mention too, one of the priorities for 2026 is just getting I don't know, it's a kind of a lofty goal just to look at kind of regional trail connectivity. So maybe it's like we're looking at where to prioritize connections. Part of this is it's a new space for us too. So it's like all the local governments, they own the infrastructure when it comes to trails and bus stops, et cetera. So it's like there's certain things we can work on together, but ultimately there is sort of kind of this bridge, I guess, in terms of what we can actually affect at the RSC. So, yeah. Okay.
Any more comments or questions, Scott? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott.
Perfect segue.
Next up is Brenda.
Yes, so I'm Brenda McCallum. I'm the Director of Community Development, and then on the other side, I look after public relations as well. So we all, again, have the dual hats that we wear here. I just want to step back a little bit about community development. It's a little bit different. Or every committee is unique. But our committee, I want to talk about it a little bit. So we have, like every committee, 2 members that represent the board. So we have John as the chair right now for a little tiny bit longer, I think.
I thought I was done.
Oh, you're never done, John.
And then Mary Schreier, Mayor from Quispamsis, and who's the vice chair right now. And then our members at large are experts in these fields. So community development covers 4 pillars. Healthy communities, so we cross into that physical activity piece in there, plus more under healthy communities. Social inclusion, affordable housing, and homelessness. And you can see the share of our budget. So again, we're touching on, it's a very broad piece that we are touching on these and figuring out what our role is within those 4 pillars and how we can move the actions forward while responding to the community's needs. Those experts that we have, so we have experts who've been working in this scape for years, and they sit around the table. We have executive directors, the executive director from the YMCA, from United Way, so regional programming. We have one from a local community that is driving particular service, working with those most in need. We have a researcher from the University of New Brunswick, and then we have a representative from the county as well. So it's a really diverse, strong, and they're very engaged. So a lot of the work that we're doing has come from them. The other thing that we did we developed a regional strategy for the commission as a whole, but recognized that the work in community development, we could not do that in that short time frame to understand the needs of the region. So we took almost all of 2024 to do a needs assessment and action plan, and it was developed in early 2025. The other piece that came into that was what they call the social mandate. So that came from the province, and that was dealing with the unhoused. We needed to be able, that took time to figure out how are we gonna do that at the Regional Service Commission level, and what's our role in that. So we took that year to do it, really connected, understood back and forth with our leaders from the local communities as well, to figure out where we landed on that. We have a really nice action plan. It's now part of the regional strategy, and we're starting to deliver on those pieces and figuring our space. 2026, the other piece I wanted to mention too, 70% of our budget, so we have 2 other staff, and then we also have a pilot project happening on the physical activity piece that was completely funded through the province as well. So 70% of our budget is sourced through outside funding for those staff members. So in 2026, what we're doing right now, we're working on resources and tools for the needs of the unhoused. We've developed a toolkit called the Response to Homelessness Toolkit that has been widely acclaimed. In fact, the rest of the province is starting to adopt it as well. And we're building, that's an educational piece. From that, we then take out and we're doing trainings. We've been to councils, we've been to committees, we've worked with committees working with vulnerable communities, and people who are unhoused. And our staff person has worked really closely with the team in St. John in dealing with the core crisis in St. John as well. Because we understand we cannot do anything on a regional basis for homelessness if it's not solved first in St. John. So part of her time is dedicated working on that side as well.
Brenda, just want to give you a heads up, you're at 5 minutes now, but we'll give you a
Sorry,
little bit more
sorry,
time.
sorry,
but
sorry.
I think it's good context, but.
That seniors was a big piece that we heard about from all communities. We have an aging population, and then we have that separate role as well with physical activity, and that's supported through a separate roundtable where we have representation from a variety of different sectors, including a couple of the rec directors sit on that as well. No members from this board, it's a separate type of forum, it's not an official committee. Next year, we're looking at more of this homelessness response. We're developing what we're calling a best practices for municipalities and local governments, or the rural district kind of, and how, what are some of those best practices that you can have, or a checklist of things that you can have to help you prepare if you have encampments in your area, and how we support you through that as well. And then looking at equitable access to recreational spaces. We've also done some work in the food security side, and we'll be continuing to implement as well. My
Good
extra,
job, yeah.
sorry about
You
that. Squeeze
Good.
in as much as I can.
Thank you, Brenda.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments or questions quickly on? All right, thank you very much. There's Graham.
Back again. So, as I should have done earlier, I'm the Director of Policy and Research. As you heard, I'm responsible for things like performance measures, the very popular procedural bylaws. As you heard, the Canada Games Aquatic Center, amongst other things, and you're probably wondering how many levels of ledgers on ledges does this man's office have? So in this case, we're talking about regional public safety, which is a committee that I'm the staff lead for. 0.8% of our overall budget is spent on this public safety role, and I think the key part of that is we all know public safety is certainly not a fractional budget item in the communities of this region. But the role of public safety at the commission is largely around coordination, of bringing those voices together, and that's not something that traditionally is terribly expensive. It's about holding meetings, having that information and best practice sharing, and hopefully, as you'll see in these priorities, moving towards how we can aspire to collaborate together to perhaps achieve some efficiencies, some cost reductions, or just provide better service for the budgets that we provide across the region. So our priorities in 2026 have been around, we have a co-working group between Regional Transportation, Scott Borden's committee, and ours on regional rail, and that's looking at the growth of rail traffic with the growth of Port St. John, amongst other things, and how we can better facilitate the safety and economic growth of rail and rail traffic in our communities. So that's, of course, rail is something that touches virtually all of the region, except for Fundy St. Martin's. We all have rail running through our communities, and we want to make sure that that's a seamless transportation interaction with the residents and pedestrians and cars throughout the region. So we're doing a public safety week focused on rail traffic in September in coordination with industry. We're really excited about that. We've also heard a lot from our committee around training and training capacity and how we're going to improve that. So we're looking into some potential joint training capacity. That could mean better sharing of facilities for training, or perhaps building or improving existing training so that we can compete with areas like Miramichi, where a lot of our, for example, fire go for their certifications, maybe that could take place here in the region. And finally, regional risk assessment is a first of its kind assessment of risk across the region, and this is where I insert my plug for climate change and climatic risk, because this is not only a first regional look at risk, but we're also looking at climatic risks. So we're all familiar with the risk of, for example, inland flooding in the spring and other times of year. Well, that's certainly something that doesn't know regional boundaries, so it's a great opportunity for us to map those things out, to work with first responders on delivering that as well. So our priorities for the coming year, and these are still working through committee, which is, of course, all those fire and police chiefs, ambulance New Brunswick, EMO at a provincial level, is to continue that collaborative bend and try to work on, first of all, potentially an inventory of our public safety assets. So one thing that we hear a lot at committee level is they want to better understand what exists across the region so that we can perhaps coordinate, that we really, they do a great job of this already, but making sure we don't create too many redundancies across these, for example, fire services that have great mutual aid already. And we see that playing out at present, and we want to make sure we encourage that. Further to that, a potential regional procurement strategy for specialized equipment. So, right now things aren't quite aligned that way, where everyone's end of life for certain equipment is in different places. But if they happen to align, and we need to buy new, Nomex suits for all the fire services, or even just 2 or 3 of them, are there cost advantages to purchasing together or doing that at the same time? That's something that the committee wants a bit of more strategy around, and that would enable us to try to find those cost efficiencies moving forward, and perhaps also move to a more interoperable series of forces where everyone is trained on the same equipment or understands how to use each other's equipment when the time comes. And finally, similarly, an inventory of the public safety training programs. That's also going back to the idea of how can we build capacity together to make sure that training is consistent across the professionals working across our region, so that not only when there are joint incidents, but also at any other time, that we're offering the same quality and level of service in all of our communities. And that's something that's really important to the residents of the Fundy region, and we want to make sure we listen to our first responders, our professionals working in public safety to deliver the best service that we can.
Thank you, Brian.
Great, thank you.
Any comments or questions before we
Yep, of course.
I was really interested in hearing your commentary on basically sharing regional costs, because it is, I know with us and I think probably across it's like a third of our budget. What's the appetite for that? Like, I'm just even thinking something as simple as Axon, these are things that our officers need, and it's very expensive. And, I'm assuming that any officer would need them, so like, is there appetite on that?
I would say, yes, there is an appetite for that at our committee level. In particular with the fire services, we're hearing a lot of encouraging language and actually active work going on at that committee level. And we have a subgroup, a fire working group, and a police working group. And they're very interested in the idea of moving from mutual aid to automatic aid, for example, to look at these inventories of equipment. Our fire chiefs, for the most part, are working towards, ideally by the end of this year, for example, standardizing unit numbers across the region, where rather than having tanker 1 and tanker 2 in 4 different places, we know they'll have 3 digits, and we'll know automatically, well, this apparatus is in Granby, Westfield because it starts with number 5. And that way it's easier to make calls that way. And I look at that as the first step towards what you're describing. And I think that they've been so keen at the committee level of addressing how can we work more smoothly and more automatically together, that the next step after that is, of course, and looking at things like joint purchasing and procurement, that there's just a more standardized approach across the region, while maintaining that it's important to have individual services often in different places where their councils have deemed that appropriate, but that we're all reading from the same training manuals and the same operations in different cases, and that helps us all provide better responses when we have things like the AIM fire on the waterfront or other large incidents where everyone's called in to work together. And that worked beautifully. But how does that take place at a smaller incident that happens to be on the border of two of them, or someone responds who's just closest, not because they're coming from another area. So I think the appetite is there. We're building trust and capacity through the exercises we're doing now, because these are long-term goals that our regional strategy established to try to build up public safety.
Excellent.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks.
Thanks.
That was the rapid fire. Told you it was going to be rapid. We just cognizant of time, because we'll have lunch at 12:30, and that's where some of your alternates are coming. We already see Mayor Schreier here. So what I'd recommend is we're going to take out 2.3, local priorities and trends. I'll deal with that conversation with the CAOs and then come back to you in July with that. But we do have a weighting exercise that we really do want to get done. So I'd like Laura to come and help us with that. I do believe this requires you to get your phones out. We're going to do some
Phones or other devices.
Or other
See,
devices.
everybody has a device.
Yeah.
Does this one still work? Or
I'll connect
you
to
want to
this.
connect? It's over there. This way.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
What page are the service-based budgets in this guy? Just take a look. So on tab 13 of the manual that you have in front of you, it has the service-based budgets. Service-based budgets are basically the vision and the goals for each service we have. It has a summary of what we've done in the past and the 2026 work plan priorities. And it also has a per member fee in the back page of all of them outside of solid waste. You'll see what your actual community pays for each service. This is tab 13. And when we do these votes, you can have a quick look at this and say, okay, where are we at with this? This is preliminary. This is not a final vote. We're just getting your initial thoughts. We wanted to give you a primer with these. This will help us navigate it, and it's important that we get your feedback into this to give you a budget that is responsive. So I would encourage you to, when you do vote on each one of these individually, that you take a look at the service-based budget tied to the service.
Yeah, the real idea is for us to get a good sense of where our board is feeling on these matters, especially just coming off of the presentations from my coworkers on their service area. We want to ensure that as we move forward to presenting our draft budget likely in July and the final proposal for the budget in August, that we're not sharing something that is totally counter to the board's appetite. We want to make sure we're in line and working together. So we have a couple of different questions that we'll go through. So on your devices, if you do want to do it on your mobile phone, you can scan the QR code, but you can also on your laptops go to menti.com, and there is a code here that will allow you to connect to this session. And essentially what we'll do is we'll get your feedback. You'll answer some questions as we go through, and then we'll get to see it on the screen together and have conversations around that. So I'll give a moment.
Is everybody in?
I think everybody,
No.
we have 7, but I think one might be mine.
One's probably mine.
Okay. So we're really looking at, for the first round of questions, trying to figure out where our emphasis should be as we develop the 2027 budget. So, looking through our service-based budget, as Phil highlighted, you have the details of what for the 2026 budget, what the percentage was for that department of our overall budget as well as the individual community spend. So what we're looking to understand is what's your temperature? Do you think that we are allocating enough to community development, which would be neutral? Would you like to see less or more on each of those?
So we'll go through each service, and this would be an opportunity to just kind of see, check where you are at the start of your terms, what you know about it. You don't need to be an expert at this yet to give it.
And
then,
it's not final
yeah.
by any means.
Yeah.
Conversation starter.
Yes.
And you can see we have 2 responders at this time that have answered the first question. It is also anonymous as well, so we don't see who, in case that's a question.
Well, we're watching. I just wondered what case it was.
Now you tell us.
They can't see the questions.
No.
So the question is essentially, for community development, is your temperature, based on our investment in previous years, feeling that we should be allocating more,
Same.
keeping the same as previous, or less? So we have 6. Looking for 1 more. There we go.
Okay.
So overall, we have an even split between neutral or more and 1 looking at less.
Yeah, that's good.
Very cool.
Any thoughts or comments on this one before we move on? The next one, regional public safety. Same question. What would you like to see in the future on our emphasis for 2027? Looking for 1 more, I think. Bit of a different split on this one, mostly neutral. A little bit less, and 1 for more. Regional facilities. My favorite one.
You said this is anonymous.
Absolutely.
That's right, John wants to be honest. He said this.
You watch the ball game with that?
Quick responses on this one too. We're up to 5 already.
Really? That's surprising.
There we go.
I wonder what's the most-
All right, drum roll.
Gee, I wonder who neutral
I wasn't gonna go more.
He didn't go more, that's amazing.
I knew what it was gonna be.
Yeah, right. That's good. Oh, yes.
Next interesting one, regional transportation. So keeping in mind what we heard from Scott on what we're looking for and how we're moving forward with regional transportation and potential pilots. There we go. Interesting.
Everybody felt bad for his regional facility.
John's still stuck in neutral.
Oh, I was more.
I'm just teasing. The old dark green John right there.
So I don't know if that's an upgrade from John 1 or just
Yeah.
a switch, now dark green.
Yeah.
That's great.
Economic development.
This one's still part
Separate one.
of our network, right? We still we still have a decision to make around economic development. It's not defined by contract now. It was for the first 3 years, but now we have the ability to say we're pushing back. We think it should go up higher or neutral or go lower.
And tourism and promotion is separate. That will be the next one.
Okay.
Often we speak of them together, but we are splitting them out for this discussion. All right. So 4 for less, 3 for neutral. And it's partner in crime, tourism promotion. Okay.
Interesting.
I enjoy that we saw different responses for each one.
Yeah.
Still, the fastest response was on regional facilities.
That'll be every time.
So this next one is a little bit different.
I like that.
So how would you prioritize member fees? And we're looking at as if you had $100 to spend, how would you allocate that $100? So it should allow you to allocate points to whichever ones you want. So how would you allocate 100 points amongst these areas? And this is looking specifically at what our member fees go to. So you'll notice that solid waste wasn't up here. That's because member fees don't actually contribute directly to solid waste. Solid waste is funded by the tipping fees. So we're looking at when we collect the member fees from each of our members, what those are going towards. So similarly, the planning that goes to, or that work that's done for the rural district and St. Martin's, Fundy St. Martin's is not included in this because we're looking at all of our member fees as a whole. I should have had the Jeopardy music queued up to go, but hindsight's 20/20.
So it'll shoot out the average once they're all done? That's it?
I think so. I'm
We don't
not
know.
quite sure of how it visualizes.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what it looks like. Oh. Just waiting on one more.
Yeah, because the average will it will average out these more dramatic.
Yeah. In my test, I only tested it with my allocations, so I knew what that looked like, but we'll see with the multiple inputs.
I'm having technical difficulties.
Jade, hand. I'll give you another minute, otherwise we'll
Sorry about that.
proceed. No problem. Take your time.
That kicked me right out.
This is the first time I've used this tool
Yeah, these
in
are
this
cool.
session, so it's nice to, that mostly went very smoothly.
It's the consultants for the transportation.
Do you want to add that? Or we can wait, I guess.
Yeah, give him a second.
We're scheduled.
Did it accept it?
It's saying only 6, but we can go through and see. Yeah. All right.
Regional transportation debate.
So it does, looking quickly, seems to align with the response that we saw on an individual level of seeing regional transportation up at the highest, with a 33% split, and then regional facilities down at the bottom, 8%.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this? Like, I see a pretty interesting, we talked about how we want to communicate with Minister Kennedy earlier, right? And like, one of the things that I've heard in the past is if we didn't have all these costs caught up in regional facilities, we'd use it elsewhere, right? So like, the idea is like, if we didn't have this cost, maybe you would be more willing to be like, what if we bought a couple buses? Like, let's do it. Let's buy a couple buses, right? Let's do it. But it kind of, it monopolizes a little bit of the space that I've heard from some members. So this would kind of point to that type of scenario where, if I had the choice to spend money wherever I wanted to spend it, it would be in these types of services. That's interesting. And this could have been, I want to spend less money on everything. That's also not what we're hearing, right? That's not a board that's like, I'm totally not into regional collaboration. That's not what I'm hearing from this body. It's just, we've got to think about how we want to weight what we spend our money on. Any other observations on this, or what does this tell you?
Yeah, it's very human oriented. When I think of economic and tourism, I think of businesses and just financial gain, right? Even for regional facilities, I'm just gonna say that. But the transportation, I think of people getting to and from work, it's people bicycling and getting healthy, for public safety, for community development. It's very human oriented. I like that.
Good observation.
That too, one of the projects on the go for 2026 is the value proposition for our regional facilities, and that too could inform your observation of it being more people focused, as maybe with regional facilities, when we're looking at communicating with our communities, maybe we do need to make sure that we're emphasizing the human side, so emphasizing how our artists at the St. John Arts Center are benefiting from what we're doing, or how Aquatic Center, what the programs that they're doing with students, how they're going to benefit from the upgrades to the Aquatic Center with the renovations for Canada Games. So that's an interesting observation from it as well. All right.
Any others?
No, that's it.
Thanks so much.
Thank
That's
you.
really useful.
That's
We'll
fun.
be using that for sure.
And if you want to send me yours, we can add that in too. But
It never did accept it.
yeah, that's strange.
You saved right?
Yeah, we have.
I also wrote it down.
Okay, so we have a decision to make here, Scott and the rest of the board, because we are over, we have another presentation, but we did tell the alternates to come in for 12:30 for lunch. So we could kind of do one of two things. One is try to plow forward with the presentation now. I know that there's people online coming in on the consulting side. Or say, listen, let's just grab lunch, and we'll delay this till later today, later in the day. Just wanted to see maybe appetite both from the organizers, Scott, and then to the board. Is one of those options better from an organizing scheduling standpoint?
Wow.
What?
Plow.
Plow through, using plow
Yeah.
through.
Because they're on lockdown.
I don't know what their availability is for later today.
Okay.
So
How
don't
quick could we do the
We
presentation?
can do it super quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dawn is here and they could come in and see
Okay.
the presentation.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's do
Do
that.
we wanna eat lunch while this happens? Is that gonna ruin anything, Scott?
I don't mind.
You don't mind?
I don't mind.
Okay, well, let's grab lunch then. It's 12:30, it's time for lunch. Just set it up and everybody gets to hear the presentation that's here. For everybody here, maybe just a little context. We have, this is like a kind of a super meeting today because we missed our May meeting because of the election, so there was like a double board meeting. So we had that this morning, and then we have a budget that we have to develop by August. So we had our first budget discussion that just ended, ran a little bit longer than expected, but really good. Got some great feedback, which will equip us. We were gonna just have lunch and then have one get to know each other session. So what we're doing is we're cramming in one more session while you guys eat lunch, which is kind of convenient because it's on our regional transportation efforts, and we think that everybody would benefit from it. But the other thing is, on that session of get to know each other, and for the rest of the afternoon when we bless and release everybody who just came in, Jamie Gamble is going to help us with that. So he's going to help us with this session. He's here with us again today. So thank you, Jamie. But I think everybody knows each other. Did everybody introduce each other? No? All right. Let's do it. Let's do that then. Let's do a round table.
We'll start over here.
Start over here, Dave.
Dave Brown, counselor. I was a fill-in before, so I know some of you. And anyway, so I'm continuing that on for our new mayor, Matt. So thanks very much.
Mary Schreier, married with Ben, and I'm an alternate, Carrie Locke. My deputy will be the main voice.
John Terrence, Mayor of Fundy St. Mark's.
Carrie Murphy, I'm counselor for Grammy Westfield.
John McKenzie, I'm deputy mayor. John?
Sarah Motional, Rural Advisory Committee for Fundy Rural, and alternate chair for Ray.
Jamie, you just met. Gary Sullivan, counselor at the City of St. John.
I'm Scott Forden. I'm going to help out on this session. I'm in charge of transportation and community planning here at the commission and some staff.
John Beard, Mayor of the City of St. John. Gary's the alternate too as well.
Deputy Mayor Carrie Locke, Wisconsin.
Matt Alexander, Mayor of Ross.
Kim Tompkins, Councilor of Hampton.
Rob Duzat, Mayor of Hampton.
Former chair. Just
Woo!
relinquished his
You're almost done.
chairpersonship, and John is our new chair
Congratulations, John.
for the commission. Phil Willett.
Cassie Silhanick, I'm the recording secretary for the board and executive assistant for Phil. Try to keep him on track.
Good.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll introduce everyone online in a minute once we get started.
Yeah, I think we plow into this presentation, and we'll shoot for 20-25 minutes.
Sounds
Kind of
good.
A little bit shorter.
Brenda, you know,
Oh, you want to
I'm
introduce?
not, I'm here to, I'm assisting Scott, I'm Brenda McCallum, I'm the Director of Community Development and Public Relations, and I'm gonna help out in this next little visioning exercise with transportation. And Maggie?
Hi, Maggie, I'm the communications coordinator for the commission.
Great.
you girls still gotta eat though.
We will, don't worry, we will.
It's all you, Scott. Go for it.
Can you guys hear us online okay? Okay, lovely, thanks. So, we're here today to introduce to those who are new to the process, I guess, this Fundy Region Transit Plan. So in 2023, as part of the new mandates, there was a mandate to directly provide or facilitate a regional transportation service. And so certainly there was a lot of interest from the board and from councils around the region last year to really get into this. So I'm excited to say we were able to get some different funding from the provincial and federal governments to do this plan. And so we found, we'll introduce them in a moment here, but there's a group of consultants on the phone that are really great at what they do. And we're now in the process of really developing this plan. They'll talk about some of the items we've done to date. Really, given we have a new board, we wanted to kind of do a little bit of a reset. As part of the board package, we did kind of put out the initial presentation these consultants have done for us, but there's going to be a little bit of repeat, but really the idea here today is to kind of come up with a vision for what this plan and what regional transportation looks like for our region. So I'm going to hand it over to Gal.
Hi everyone, my name is Gal Kramer. I'm a transit planner at VIA. We're working with the Commission on the study. For those of you who are not familiar, VIA is a transportation technology and operations company. We provide software and operations for transit services all around the world, thousands of services. My team is really dedicated to transit planning and consulting services, especially in regions like yourselves, smaller cities, more rural areas, using innovative transportation technology to come up with the best, most efficient transit solutions for areas like yours. We are partnering with the TAKE team for this. Just for the sake of expediency, maybe I will run through my next few slides, and then I'll have TAKE introduce themselves when we hand over to them. So really quickly, and like Scott mentioned, you have more details on this in your packet, but wanted to provide an overview of what we're doing here with this project. So the purpose of the project is to provide a long-range regional transit plan for the Fundy region. We're looking at different proposals and solutions for transit options to improve connectivity, and we're doing that in response to things like demographic trends, data analysis of existing services, and what we're hearing directly from the community, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. The three modes of transit that we're primarily looking at in the study is microtransit, which is a flexible zone-based system similar to St. John Transit's flex service. This can be configured in a variety of different ways, and we'll be exploring those different opportunities in the next few tasks of the project. We're looking at intercommunity shuttle buses similar to COMEX that could serve to provide transit between different communities, either all day or during peak time for commuters. And we're also looking at local fixed route buses that could provide regular service to some of the more populated portions, some of the more densely populated areas within the region. We'll spend a lot of time talking about this over the next few meetings, and hopefully we'll be regrouping with you all for this. So today's purpose is to really take a step back and really focus on this transit vision, but also happy to talk about some of these modes if there are questions after the activity. So far what we've done is our first two rounds of engagement, which were really focused on developing this engagement strategy, focus on listening, hearing from the community, what are the needs, what's working well, what's not working well, what do residents, workers want to see from transit in the future for the region. We presented to the Transportation Committee. We've sent notices of project commencement to different agencies and interest holders. We have a web page up that's helping promote the project and where we're sharing information. We've developed promotional materials. We did a similar presentation with the CAOs, also talking about transit vision and goals. And we did these 4 pop-ups in the community a few weeks ago, really meeting community members where they are, trying to hear from them what their needs are. And I'll pass it over to Claire to talk a little bit more about what we heard during those sessions.
Great, thanks very much, Gal. And hello, everyone. Really appreciate you having us here today. I definitely appreciate and understand that it's a packed meeting, so we are trying to also pack a lot of information into this short presentation. As always, we're very happy to take any questions because I'm sure there is a lot in the way of sort of ideas and thoughts that you have, and that's one of the reasons why we're here. I am a co-founder and principal of a firm called TAKE Consulting. I'm joined by my business partner, Kate Whitfield. We focus on strategic planning as well as engagement. And so we are helping VIA as well as FRSC to undertake this really wonderful and important project. And it was truly such a pleasure to be within the community undertaking this engagement a couple of weeks ago. It was a broad-reaching engagement exercise, and I really commend the Commission for supporting the breadth of engagement that we were able to do across different geographies with various different audiences, with different groups, and that really is what we aim to do. We aim to make sure that we are not only educating and generating awareness, but also gathering input that can really help to shape the future vision and opportunities for transit that can be ideally reflected through this strategy going forward. So this most recent round of engagement, of which in total there will be 2 rounds of engagement, really focused on having a breadth of understanding of what the degrees of interest, as Gal said, the current uptake, the current uses, the current challenges, as well as opportunities associated with transit are within the region right now. We did some very formal engagement activities. We did some ad hoc. You'll see at the very top of this slide a picture of two of our very near and dear friends now that we made on the COMEX bus that spent, I would say, about an hour speaking with my colleague Kate about their experiences on that bus. It is a community on that service. They use it every day. They are excited to see each other. Some of them have given up their vehicles and other mode choices and made significant accommodations in their travel trips because they feel such joy around using this service. And it was a wonderful thing to hear and experience through that bus ride. We also heard, and Gal mentioned, employers and employees and community members, the depth that we were able to speak to community members in terms of how they use transit or would like to use transit was really quite broad. So I know I had a conversation with a very young employee who just started working full time, who's still living with his parents, but is looking for a little bit more autonomy. We talked to seniors, we talked to visitors as well. People are acknowledging that transit is a way in which they can move around, or at least could move around, not only their community, but other communities, whether it's for day-to-day trips like employment or for recreational trips on the weekend or otherwise. So there really is a breadth of opportunity that we're hearing from the community in terms of where they're interested in potentially seeing transit be expanded and demand be provided. Definitely some questions on, or not some, but a lot of questions on the scope of this exercise. So interested, and they were very intrigued as to how we were thinking of exploring building on St. John Transit service as it is right now and enhancing offerings through FRSC's work by providing options for a range of different groups and audiences, including an emphasis on seniors and youth, as you see here. We do see that strong culture of current users, but of course, definitely people who are still primarily car users or single occupancy vehicle users. But you do also see this really wonderful acknowledgement that demographics are shifting, that people need to think of what their future transportation options are and what the range could be. We heard a lot, and I promise I'm getting closer to the bottom of this list, we heard a lot about the acknowledgement of transit and how it is driven, pun intended, by destinations and where people are going, but what that trip looks like and how transit can help to accommodate that or need to be adapted to help accommodate that. So we heard a lot about the need to provide access to community centers, seniors programs, the hospital. So again, not just employment areas, but service provision and day-to-day trip provision as well. So I would say all in all, there's a huge appetite from the people that we talked about and talked to currently. We know that there are definitely opportunities to reach further into the communities, I should say, to understand what the appetite is and what the options are. But from what we could tell from the various engagement activities that we were able to undertake, there is an acknowledgement of the value of potential transit. There's an acknowledgement of clarifying what the options could be that are unique to the region as well as its various communities, and to think really strategically about who we're supporting through transit use and how that can evolve over time. So a really exceptional opportunity to be out there, and we appreciate being able to do that. So those were just some of our key takeaways. And I'll pause quickly just in case maybe there are some questions of clarification from the group before we move into the activity to get your thoughts on a vision and series of principles.
Yeah, sure. I don't really know where to direct it. I guess I'll talk to the owl. So thank you for that. And just one thing that struck me was that you acknowledged that you wanted to reach further into communities to better understand kind of the needs of the user. And I know that just reading the overview, you did do some engagement sessions with users and you did some pop-ups, and I'm just curious, and I know you've already acknowledged that there's more work to do, but we're talking about kind of the themes that emerged. What kind of turnout or response rate did you get at the community pop-ups in the outlying areas, like outside of St. John, because again, St. John right now, you know, it has a big market where there's lots of users using the transportation system. Whereas with Hampton, Grand Bay, Rossay, Quispam, I'm just wondering what the response rate turnout was when you were, like, just so that, to put in context, the next step in terms of what you're gonna tell us.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great question, and we divided and conquered when it came to the engagement activities. So I'll also ask others to pop in if they have any other anecdotes to share. But I would say from the ones that I was able to attend, even in the communities outside of St. John, at least at the grocery store, over the course of about 2 hours, we probably talked to about 30 or 40 people who passed by or were promoted and provided promotional materials to. Definitely at the, I believe at the bank that I didn't have the pleasure of going to that session, but others did. There were similar numbers, if not a few more. I was very encouraged by the fact that we had this wonderful mix of people who weren't specifically coming to us for this particular project. We were actually talking to them in situ while they were going about their day-to-day activities. So this was a very sort of real type of interaction. We did also have people who sought us out and who saw the promotion and came to us specifically to talk about these topics. So there was quite a range. For me, and I'm an engagement optimist, it's about the amalgam, but it also highlights the opportunities to try to use other methods of engagement, whether it be online or otherwise, through the next stage of outreach to be able to continue to expand our reach and broaden what we were able to gather from an input and range perspective.
I have a question. John Cairns, Mayor of Fundy St. Martin's. I saw your 4 places that you had your pop-ups at, but none were anywhere near my village. In fact, they would have had to travel for 7:30 in the morning to go to the one in Rossi at the Superstore. So I'm wondering, are you thinking, or is anyone thinking about including us?
Yeah,
Rural areas.
Yep.
I could maybe start, and if Claire and Gal have anything else to say. We were pretty strategic on the locations, and we knew from the get-go, you know, we had a finite amount of time within a few days to kind of do them. But the reason we went to Greenwich Point in Grand Bay, for example, is so that we could hopefully get some of that traffic of folks that would go from Grand Bay to the peninsula, for example. So totally acknowledge we weren't able to get everywhere for this first round, but that is something for the second round that we, and I don't know exactly what form that will look like, if we'll get to each and every community, but it's certainly, you know, maybe for the next round, it's like we prioritize the spots we weren't able to get to for the first round. But I would say, and part of the reason we went to the St. John City Market, we do know that a lot of people commute in and out of the city, and so part of the reason we went to the market is to get some of those regional residents while they were on their lunch breaks, and we did get a sense that there were lots of folks not just from the city of St. John, but what was good about that is we did talk to folks that were maybe in St. John and wanted to access other parts of the region too. So
yeah. I would echo what you've said, Scott, already. I would just add that one of these, when you're working at a scale like this, what we really try to also rely on is the ability to partner on promotion and engagement. So would also ask if you have any thoughts either now or later about how we can leverage events that are happening in your community or other platforms through which you're doing engagement to be able to broaden the reach and to be able to bring information to community members a little bit more broadly. So absolutely open to any of those suggestions too, and happy to explore those. I also wanted to speak to the survey that FRSC did previously, which was a broader transportation survey, which also provided an online option to share ideas about various transportation options. We are trying to build on information gathered there, in addition to doing something online for this particular project in the next phase of engagement here. So we're trying to really pull out what other options there are and how we can build on what's already been done, but also wrote down that note in terms of where we want to see other engagement opportunities going forward. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Maybe we're ready, Claire.
Wonderful. That's great. Well, I'm really passing it over to you, Scott and Brenda, which is great because we're out here in Neverland virtual land. But what we heard loud and clear was that there would be some appetite from this group to having something more interactive in the room. And so we're absolutely supporting that. I mentioned a little bit earlier that we went in quite a bit of detail through this round of engagement to ask about transit preferences and options and needs and opportunities, all with the goal of coming together and ultimately creating or co-creating the future vision for transit service for the Fundy region, as well as some supporting principles. And that those pieces end up being foundational to the development of a strategy and sort of the touch point for all potential recommendations or initiatives that come from it. So what we have done is we've developed a potential proposed, very preliminary vision statement for your consideration and a series of supporting principles. What I always like to say is when looking at this vision statement, when considering it, know that it is intentionally very aspirational in nature. It is meant to articulate what the long-term goal is and what ultimately you're trying to achieve. So it is not meant to articulate what is happening now. It's meant to show or explain what you hope to achieve down the line. And of course, supporting principles are more detailed descriptors of what it is you have achieved or how you would achieve it when you think to that vision. So what our team has done is come up with a draft, again, preliminary draft vision statement and a series of potential principles. And what we're getting Scott and Brenda to facilitate an exercise through with you today is to review those statements and to gather your thoughts on the good things about it, maybe some of the things that can be improved, language changes, wording changes, things that are important to highlight. And ideally, once we get through that visioning exercise, we'll be able to work through some of the principles to identify the ones that you think would be most important to consider, be most important to emphasize through this process. Lastly, if time allows, we'll maybe talk a little bit about what some success factors could be, but the focus right now is around the vision statement and the supporting principles and getting your thoughts on those two core foundational elements for the strategy itself. So maybe I'll pass it over to you, Scott, and go on to the next slide where we actually present the proposed vision statement and you start your facilitation work in the room.
Thanks. We're going to do the quickest facilitation ever, Claire. You're probably not going to like this. But what we're going to do is I've handed out dots. The dots are for the objectives. There's 10 objectives. You've got 5. And I only did hand them out to the board members, so apologies, I didn't expect to have the alternates here today. So what we've got here is a vision statement for the project, a very draft vision statement. I've got green sticky notes, I've got red sticky notes. If there's stuff you like in the vision statement, write it on here, put it next to there. And then the rest of the activity, again, you've got 5 dots to kind of look at those objectives, and you can choose which of the 10 objectives you like, and I think we can just take 5 minutes to do that. So, best of luck.
5 minutes.
Do you want to read them aloud?
Sure. Why don't you guys, if you want to kind of get moving, get started, I'm going to leave the materials right here. Those are for the vision statement. Sure, go for it.
You can write. There's little posties if you want to write on the postie and pop it on.
So the draft vision statement we've got is moving the Fundy region forward by providing equitable, seamless, sustainable, and dependable public transportation for all communities. Again, maybe is it too lofty? Is it too, what are your comments on that? And then I'll just go over what the different objectives are. So the first one's about equity and inclusiveness, ensuring the transit system prioritizes income equity by offering low cost or no cost access to services for low income, vulnerable, and transit dependent families. Number 2 is regionally integrated, build upon existing services to improve regional connectivity, allowing seamless transfers and coordinated ticketing between new services and St. John Transit. Number 3 is coverage and access. Ensure the network connects to jobs, education, resources, and healthcare for individuals of all ages and mobilities. Number 4 would be prioritizing frequent and reliable service, build public transit trust, and combat entrenched car dependency by delivering high-frequency schedules and predictable travel times that reduce daily passenger stress. Number 5 is scalable and flexible, tailor transit modes such as on-demand, responsive, and flex services to match the specific density, travel distances, and unique realities of outlying and rural communities. I will go through the last 5. Number 6 is age-friendly and accessible, supporting an aging population and promoting aging in place by designating dignity-first solutions that solve the specific challenge of getting seniors safely to the transit network. 7 is fiscally sustainable, ensuring long-term viability by balancing community needs with cost-feasible service models, maximizing regional funding partnerships, and protecting municipal investments. 8 is all about efficiency, prioritizing direct, swift connections, and optimizing corridors to make transit a competitive alternative to personal vehicles. 9 is all about environmental sustainability, prioritize green solutions, reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and transition towards electric vehicles to support long-term regional environmental sustainability. And 10 prioritizes economic and workforce vitality, drive regional economic growth and labor force recruitment by aligning transit corridors and service schedules with major employment hubs, seasonal industries, and non-traditional work shifts. So those are the sort of 10 different principles, and we've given you 5 stickies to prioritize as needed. And we'd love your comments on the vision statement as well.
So the sticky notes are, the post-it notes for comments.